every police force in GTA 5. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, as it helps pushing and improving the channel. Anyway, grab something to drink, because this is really a long one. The North Yankton State Patrol is one of the most mysterious law enforcement agencies in GTA 5. You only really see them once, and that's in the prologue. But who are they really? What role do they play in the story? And are they just another example of the broken and violent system that exists in the GTA universe? In this video we're going to break down everything about the North Yankton State Patrol, so subscribe and enjoy. Unlike most police forces in GTA 5, the North Yankton police doesn't operate across the full map. Instead they are limited to one specific location, North Yankton. More specifically, the small, snow-covered town of Ludendorff. This is the only place where the agency exists in the game, and because North Yankton is only accessible during the prologue and the mission Bury the Hatchet, their presence is extremely limited. Their main role appears to be the standard statewide law enforcement, responding to crime, setting up roadblocks, and pursuing suspects across the snowy highways. However, due to the nature of Ludendorff, we never actually see them patrolling freely like other agencies. They have no visible stations, just a pure response to a heist, which already makes them feel very different from other police forces in the game. The North Yankton State Patrol is heavily inspired by the real-life North Dakota State Patrol, just like its real-world counterpart. It's a state-level law enforcement agency responsible for maintaining law and order across a largely rural, cold environment. One of the biggest similarities is in the uniform design. Both feature dark outerwear, light-colored pants, and a very traditional state trooper look. Even their vehicles closely resemble older North Dakota cars, white body with blue and yellow striping alongside. However, GTA adds its own twist. The harsh winter pushes the realism further, with officers wearing heavy winter coats and hats like Ushankas and cold weather gear. Interestingly, there are small inconsistencies in their design. Some uniform features sheriff-style elements, like the sheriff stars seen on the uniform, which suggests that Rockstar may have originally planned them differently. But these details also add to their mystery, because we never see enough of them to fully understand the agency. There's also a strong inspiration from the movie Fargo, from the snowy setting to the uniforms and even the tone of the prologue. North Yankton itself feels like a direct reference to that film's atmosphere. The North Yankton State Patrol plays its biggest and only role during the prologue. This is where everything we know about them comes from. The mission begins with Michael, Trevor and Brad robbing a bank in Ludendorff. At first everything goes according to plan, but once they step outside, the situation immediately escalates. Police begin to respond, and among them are the North Yankton State Troopers, and this is where they stand out. Unlike regular police units, they doesn't hold back. During the escape, officers fire directly from moving vehicles. They set up full roadblocks with multiple units, and they use heavier weaponry than expected. At one point, a roadblock is formed with 2 patrol cars. The streets are flooded with multiple armed officers and coordinated positioning. This level of response feels closer to a military operation than a standard policing, which is unusual for what is supposed to be a state patrol unit. It immediately sets the tone for how serious the situation is and how dangerous this police force can be. But also you gotta remember that this was set up by the FIB to catch the crew, so their behavior and enforcement most likely varies from day to day. Is the North Yankton State Patrol corrupt? So this is where things get interesting. Unlike agencies like the FIB or certain parts of the LSPD, there is no direct evidence that the North Yankton State Patrol is corrupt. They're not shown being controlled by powerful figures like Devin Weston. In fact, based on what we see, they're just doing their job, responding to a violent bank robbery with force. However, there's another way to look at it. While they may not be corrupt, they are extremely aggressive. Their use of lethal force raises questions of how well trained the force really is and how close of a connection they have to the FIB and other more corrupt agencies. because unlike the Los Santos police, they don't hesitate. It might be a reflection of a harsher, more militarized style of policing, or just a unit that has been promised a promotion after. I don't know, tell me in the comments what you think. There has never been a better time to jump into the world of GTA, thanks to today's sponsor, Eneba. You can find the best prices for your favorite GTA game and also buy shark cards and other gift cards. With the code GETTINGHOT you will get a 9% discount on your purchase. Scan the QR code on screen or click on my link down below. And with Snakzy powered by Eneba, you can earn real rewards just by playing games. Use my Eneba link for cheaper games and use code LORETIMEGTA on Snakzy for up to a $10 bonus. They will open fire quickly, pursue suspects without hesitation, and use coordinated tactics like roadblocks. One of the most notable moments is during the getaway. A trooper in a pursuing vehicle leans out and starts shooting. This is something you normally only see at very high wanted levels in other parts of the game. Officers are positioned strategically and they're ready for direct confrontation. This suggests that the North Yankton police operate at a higher level of training than standard patrol units, almost like a hybrid between regular police and tactical response teams. When it comes to equipment, the North Yankton Patrol is surprisingly well armed. Their standard vehicles include the police road cruiser, a classic 4-door patrol car, and the police rancher, a larger SUV used for pursuit and response. Both vehicles feature a clean white design with blue and yellow striping, very similar to the real-life State Patrol. But what really stands out is their weaponry. They carry weapons such as pistols, pump shotguns, SMGs and even carbine rifles. This level of firepower is unusual for a State Patrol unit and again reinforces the idea that they are prepared for extreme situations rather than everyday policing. So while the North Yankton State Patrol only appears for a short time in GTA 5, they leave a lasting impression. They are not just background police, they represent something different. A more aggressive and tactical unit with a strong relationship with the government, making them one of the best and most well-trained police units in the game. So yeah, they might only appear once, but they're easily one of the most dangerous police forces in the game. Bobcat Security is one of the most mysterious security companies, with very few appearances, which makes us wonder what the company's real purpose is about. Today we're going to uncover the untold lore of Bobcat Security. Bobcat Security is a private security company founded in 1969. They specialize primarily in secure transportation of money and other valuable goods. Its guards operate armored stockade vehicles designed to protect valuable cargo while it's being transported. The company also provides residential security, including alarm systems and armed response services, just like Gruppe Sechs. Bobcat Security signs can be seen outside of homes throughout Los Santos, particularly in wealthier areas such as Vinewood Hills and Rockford Hills. They can be seen outside Franklin's apartment. Bobcat Security appears to have connections with financial institutions. Its armored stockade display references to Bank of Liberty, suggesting the Bobcat is contracted to transport or protect money and valuables belonging to the bank. For much of the game, Bobcat Security remains mainly a background company after the prologue. However, its branding and security signs can still be found around Los Santos. One of Bobcat's most important locations is its depot in Ludendorff. This facility plays a major role in the opening of the game. The robbery in 2004 where Michael, Trevor, Brad and their getaway driver robbed the depot during the game's prologue. The robbery establishes Bobcat Security as one of the first organizations encountered. The facility is by far the biggest job they've taken, or at least what we know. The depot is a large 3-story facility built to store and transport significant amounts of cash. Inside there's a reception area, locker rooms, a heavily secured vault and a loading bay outside. The facility also has an inaccessible surveillance room where they control all the surveillance surrounding the facility. Although the depot is protected by Bobcat Security, Some of its security cameras are branded by Gruppe Sechs, suggesting that they may have some sort of corporation. The facility is also heavily decorated with Christmas decorations, like Christmas cards and a Christmas tree, suggesting that the North Yankton robbery happened during the holiday. One of the few known Bobcat Security employees is Jaspers, a security guard working at the Ludendorff depot in 2004. During the robbery, Jasper manages to ambush Michael. As the crew escapes the vault, he removes Michael's mask and holds him at gunpoint, telling him that he'll remember his face.
Give it up! I got him! I saw your face, I'll remember you!
And as we already know, Michael responds with his famous line.
You forget 1,000 things every day. How about you make sure this is one of them? You wanna live? Tell me you wanna live. We'll work this out.
For sure I wanna live! Tell me to put the gun down!
Ain't gonna happen, pal. Make a move! I got all day.
Seconds later, Trevor shoots Jaspers in the head, killing him. Despite appearing for only a few seconds, he is surprisingly significant, as he is the first character to get killed on screen in GTA 5. The name Jaspers is a Persian name, which means a keeper or protector of a treasure. This is possibly an Easter egg placed in the game by Rockstar because of how Jasper is protecting the vault. Another known Bobcat Security employee is Alex, a security guard stationed at the entrance of the Ludendorff depot. Unlike Jasper, Alex is already dead by the time we see him in the prologue. During the robbery, he was working inside the security booth at the main gate when he was shot in the head. Interestingly, a car is parked directly beside the security post, which was most likely his personal car. Alex has no dialogue and only appears as a corpse, making him one of Bobcat Security's most easily missed employees. The year is 2004, Christmas is right around the corner, and the snowy town of Ludendorff, North Yankton is preparing for the holidays. But inside the local security depot, things are about to go horribly wrong. 3 unknown criminals storm the facility, taking the employee hostage, while another criminal plants explosives on the vault. Seconds later, the doors are blown up, and the crew gets their hands on nearly $180,000. But on their way out, Jasper catches one of the criminals off guard, holding him at gunpoint and removing his mask. One of the criminals immediately shoots him, and the crew fights their way out of the depot. Outside, the robbery quickly falls apart, and armed police response shows up. Their vehicle is hit by a train, and the crew is forced to continue on foot. For Bobcat Security, the robbery left its depot destroyed, 2 unknown guards dead, and almost $180,000 stolen. The robbery became the biggest scandal in Bobcat history. The very facility that would become Bobcat's biggest job became their downfall. By 2025, they began operating a facility in the terminal of Los Santos, where they hired criminals to help them escort and protect valuable cargo. What is Bobcat's rivalry with Gruppe Sechs really about? To be clear, there is no confirmed rivalry between the two companies, but both companies operate in the same industry, providing private security and transporting valuable goods in armored stockades. However, Gruppe Sechs appears to have a much larger presence in Los Santos. They protect multiple locations, operate armored trucks throughout the city, and even handle security for major locations like the Union Depository. Meanwhile, Bobcat appears to be much smaller, focusing on residential security and armored transport. But there is one strange connection between them: the security cameras at the North Yankton depot. So despite potentially competing for the same contracts, Bobcat was apparently using the Gruppe Sechs equipment. Whether this means the company once worked together or that Gruppe Sechs supplied Bobcat with equipment is unknown. And strangely enough, both companies have also been connected to the Bank of Liberty City. So rather than being confirmed enemies, Bobcat and Gruppe Sechs seems to be competing for the same security contracts, operating in the same market, with a surprisingly complicated connection between them. The IAA is one of the biggest government intelligence agencies in San Andreas, alongside the FIB. But who actually runs the IAA? What is the IAA's friendship with Merryweather really about? And is the IAA really any better than the FIB? Today we're going to uncover the untold lore of the IAA. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing so I can continue doing videos like this. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. The IAA is one of the biggest government intelligence agencies in San Andreas. Alongside the FIB, their main focus is surveillance and protection. Their rivalry with the FIB heavily benefits the government and its citizens, as the agencies constantly try to expose each other's corruption to gain more funds. Just like the FIB, the IAA has authority over the LSPD and news, but also works very closely to Merryweather in many of their operations, as seen throughout the game. The IAA and Merryweather keep a more friendly partnership when it comes to protecting secret operations. Most of their operations happen in San Andreas from their headquarters, but they also sometimes work in Liberty City, as seen throughout GTA 4. The organization is heavily inspired by both the CIA and the NSA. Like the CIA, the IAA is responsible for protecting national interests through covert operations and foreign espionage. Unlike its real-world inspiration, the IAA is deeply corrupted.
Who are you? FIB?
The FIB? Do I look homosexual? Do you think I care about the size of your Johnson?
Rather than serving its people, it constantly competes with the FIB for government funding and political influence. The United Liberty Paper contact, later revealed to be Agent ULP, is one of the IAA's most experienced operatives. Before the events of the game, he served in the US Army and built a reputation running covert operations across the world, claiming he was first in Russia in 9/1 and the first out in 11.
Oh, I got Russians ever since they started coming in on Israeli passports. I was the first in 91 and the first out in 11. I know their moves.
Operating under the front company, ULP blackmailed Niko Bellic into carrying out assassinations against suspected terrorists and government targets, before eventually helping him locate Darko Breivik. By 2013, ULP had transferred to San Andreas, where he became one of the IAA's senior field agents during its war with the FIB. In GTA Online, his real name was finally revealed to be Bernard. Karen Daniels is another high-ranking field agent. Before arriving in San Andreas, she spent years working undercover in Liberty City under the name Michelle, where she infiltrated Niko Bellic's life by posing as his girlfriend while secretly gathering intel. Despite successfully completing her mission, she appeared genuinely remorseful for betraying Niko.
And weirdly, in some ways, you're a nice guy. Better than the creeps I normally date.
Bernard even hints that the agency had given her life back, implying she may have been recruited after a troubled criminal past. During the events of GTA 5, Karen had changed dramatically. Having risen through the ranks of the IAA, she became a harsh operative, known for brutal interrogation methods and willingness to do whatever was necessary to complete the mission.
When I ran agents in the field, I had to entrap them, cajole them, threaten them with deportation. You're never gonna know what I had to do. Now, apparently, all you gotta do is give them a couple bucks and a few kind words.
Agent 14 is one of the IAA's most mysterious agents. Behind many of the agency's covert operations, he deliberately hid his true identity and affiliation, presenting himself as nothing more than a middleman offering criminals highly classified work.
And I want it understood that I am not involved, just a bystander doing a favor. And this is not an offer of employment so much as an opportunity.
Even Leslie Crest preferred knowing as little as possible about who Agent 14 actually worked for.
Hey, long time. Hey, that last thing I put you onto, that was nothing to do with me, remember? But this is.
His true alliance was finally confirmed during the Doomsday Heist, revealing that Agent 14 had been working for the IAA all along, alongside his superior, Phoenicia Rackman. Despite his secretive job, Agent 14 is far less serious than most agents. He's arrogant, sarcastic, and sometimes careless.
So we can turn the lights on. Hey! Careful with that thing!
But underneath that personality, he appears genuinely committed to protecting the country, even if that means hiring the same criminals the agency is supposed to be fighting. Phoenicia Rackman is one of the highest ranking IA officials we met in the series, acting as a senior supervisor with authority over agents such as Agent 14. Unlike most operatives, Rackman rarely enters the field herself. Instead, she operates from behind the scenes, supervising agents and making decisions on some of the agency's most sensitive operations. She is strict professional and extremely secretive, constantly reminding those around her that their operations can never be traced back to the government.
If you think you know me, you don't. Who do you work for?
Can I get this place on lockdown right now? Come on, you imbeciles!
And while Agent 14 likes to joke around and take credit for successful operations, she is usually the person reminding him who is actually in charge. The United Liberty Paper headquarters is a 26th-floor office building in the heart of Algonquin. Its exterior is fairly plain. From the outside, the building looks very corporate, with dark windows and a rectangular design, and a large United Liberty Paper sign above the entrance, perfectly disguising the secretive government operations taking place inside. The IAA headquarters on Pillbox Hill is the main base of operation in San Andreas. The building has 53 floors and is almost identical to the FIB building, representing the rivalry. Most of the building consists of offices, while the upper floors contain more restricted areas used for the agency's classified operations. One of the few accessible areas is the 36th floor, which contains offices, interrogation rooms, and a legal affairs section. This is also where Karen Daniels interrogates Mr. K. But the skyscraper isn't the entire facility. Hidden underneath the headquarters is a large underground complex where only authorized personnel are allowed to enter. The facility can be infiltrated in GRA Online, showing that some of the agency's most sensitive operations are happening deep underneath the building. Another secret IAA base can be found far away from Los Santos, hidden beneath the satellite relay station in the Grand Senora Desert. On the surface, the complex appears to be nothing more than an observatory consisting of 6 massive radio telescopes pointed toward the sky. But underneath one of the satellite dishes is a heavily secured underground IAA facility. The base remained completely hidden until the events of the Doomsday Heist, when its existence was finally revealed. Protected by armed agents and a defensive system, the facility is used by the agency for some of its most classified operations. Its remote location in the middle of the desert makes it the perfect place for the IAA to conduct operations far away from the public eye. In early 2013, before the events of GRA 5, while assisting local enforcement in Paliro Bay, AIA agents took part in operation to capture El Estúpido, cousin of cartel boss Marty Madrazo. The raid was meant to end with a quiet arrest. Instead, the protagonists stormed the farm, rescued the target, and fought their way through AIA agents before escaping by helicopter. Another mission had ended in failure. While much of the agency's attention was focused on its growing rivalry with the FIB, it was also fighting another battle behind the scenes, preventing dangerous military technology from falling into the wrong hands. At Humane Labs and Research, Merryweather Security was secretly funding the development of a powerful nerve agent under the leadership of Don Percival. Fearing what could happen if the weapon was completed, the IAA began planning a covert operation to obtain the research data before it could be weaponized. Unable to carry out the mission themselves without exposing the agency, the IAA turned into outside contractors. Through the hacker known as Lester Crest, Agent 14 recruited a team of professional criminals to work on behalf of the agency. The first assignment was to break scientist Maxim Rashkovsky out of the prison. As one of the Humane Lab's original founders, Rashkovsky possessed critical knowledge of the facility, giving the IAA everything they needed to prepare an infiltration. The crew infiltrated Humane Labs, bypassed its security, and successfully stole the nerve agent research data from the facility's servers. From the IAA's perspective, the mission had achieved exactly what it was designed to do. The research had been secured before Merryweather could fully exploit it. However, the agency had no intention of maintaining ties with criminals who carried out the operation.
But, and I'm serious now, as stupid as you are not gonna talk about what happened here. Because your usefulness to us, well, it just ran out.
With the data secured and the loose ends tied up, the IAA quietly disappeared from the criminals' lives. For the agency, it was another successful covert operation, one the public would never know about. Later that year in 2013, the IAA secured the Los Santos County Coroner's Office to protect the classified operation surrounding Ferdinand Kerimov, and meanwhile the IAA top Karen Daniels tried to extract information from Kerimov in their headquarters.
See how you feel when this is 18 inches deep inside?
Suddenly a man jumped through the window and killed dozens of officers. This wasn't just a scheme, it was a personal attack against the agency. The middle-aged man grabbed Kerimov and once again jumped out of the window. After the incident, the IAA began questioning its security, and the question still remained on who was behind this operation. Weeks later, Agent ULP, another highly decorated officer, visited Humane Labs and Research to check on how their current partnership in the lab was going, when suddenly gunshots were heard. Agent ULP, alongside fellow Merryweather soldiers, ran towards them to stop the intruders.
Oh, FIB Special Agent, I got this covered!
Detain this man!
Fuck you, I should detain you, I just took a bullet for my country!
Instead of finding the intruders, all they found was wounded FIB officer Steve Haynes, who with his courage tried to stop the theft. However, despite Steve's courage, his presence at the IAA lab made the agency top start wondering if all the attacks were just ordered by the FIB itself. Deep investigations led the IAA to the conclusion that the FIB was part of the scheme against its own government. One of the bureau's high-up members snitched. Andrea Sanchez sold its unit out and revealed that his boss Steve Haynes and 3 retired criminals were the ones responsible for all the attacks. Believing that this move would further advance Andrea Sanchez's career within the FIB, the Bureau, alongside the IAA top and Merryweather, decided to set a trap for them at the court center.
Hey, put your gun down! Oh, same goddamn leg! Go!
However, the plan did not go as expected. Agent Sanchez was killed and the IAA forces were destroyed by only 3 criminals. A loss the agency would never forget. By 2016, they had begun assisting local law enforcement in shutting down the growing biker drug trade across Blaine County. Working alongside corrupt police officers and news units, the agents raided illegal businesses, hoping to arrest their staff and seize their operations. However, the GT Online protagonist intervened, eliminating the IAA task force before rescuing arrested workers from a police transporter. Once again, the agency's operation had ended in failure. In 2017, the IAA would encounter one of their biggest threats. During the Doomsday Heist, Phoenicia Rackman had been working with billionaire Avon Hertz. Avon and his artificial intelligence Clifford had supposedly been helping the agency identify potential threats to national security. But this partnership would soon become one of the biggest mistakes in IAA history. It began when mercenaries launched a surprise attack on the IAA's secret facility beneath the satellite relay station. Rackman and Agent 14 initially believed the Russians were responsible, with Avon claiming that a mysterious Russian operative named Bogdan was behind the attack, but they were completely wrong. The attack on the facility was part of Avon's plan, allowing Clifford to gain access to the San Andreas defense network. And because the IAA had trusted Avon, they had unknowingly helped give an increasingly unstable AI access to some of the country's most dangerous military systems. In fact, many of the agency's operatives were kidnapped, including Agent ULP and Agent 14, who is revealed to be kidnapped by Merryweather Security while jogging.
ULP, they called him. He was last seen with some very bad people. ULP wasn't just heading up the investigation into these breaches. You know what else he was in charge of? The IAA's
criminals on the West Coast. They just can't help themselves. Some of these bastards love selling rocks to fund their illegal wars.
Rackman gave Lester full authority to do whatever was necessary to stop Avon, while desperately trying to keep the disaster from becoming public. With Bogdan now helping them, Rackman, Lester and the agency began dismantling Avon's defenses and searching for Clifford. From a hidden launch facility beneath Mount Chiliad, Avon was preparing to launch a nuclear missile. The protagonist stormed the facility, while the others coordinated the operation from the outside. And most importantly for the agency, Clifford's main code was apparently destroyed before the missile could be launched. The IAA survived the doomsday. As the nightclub business expanded, the IAA once again joined local law enforcement in cracking down organized crime. Acting on intelligence, the agency raided the protagonist's nightclub, hoping to seize millions of dollars worth of illegal goods before they could be distributed. However, the GTA Online protagonist arrives before the operation could be completed, eliminating the IAA task force and forcing the remaining officers to retreat. Another raid had ended in failure, allowing the criminal empire to continue growing. In 2021, during the Los Santos Tuners, the agency suffered one of its biggest security breaches. A corrupt agent sold a security pass to criminals, giving them access to one of the agency's underground facilities. Using the stolen credentials, the protagonist infiltrated the compound, fought through dozens of agents, and interrogated a detained dealer for the location of a valuable chemical recipe.
Recognize his voice, mother?
Shit. Kenny.
What'd it do? Didn't think I'd find your mother ass in here, did you?
I swear I was gonna call you.
Slap the shit out this whole ass. Let them know where the we coming from. Oh.
Despite the agency's effort to contain the breach, the criminals escaped with information, exposing yet another weakness in the IAA security. By 2022, rising gas prices across the state caught their attention. Agent ULP suspected that the Duggan crime family was responsible and recruited the protagonist, officially swearing them in as a special field operative.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States as interpreted by my immediate superiors in the IA.
The investigations confirmed that Duggan were manipulating gas prices, but also uncovered something far more dangerous. They had obtained surviving copies of Clifford's code from the Doomsday heist. The IAA recovered the technology and discovered that the FIB were attempting to sell even more copies to the Duggans. After stopping the deal, ULP sent the protagonist back to Avon's old facility to destroy the remaining Clifford servers. But instead of destroying everything, the IAA secretly kept a copy of Clifford's code for themselves. With the operation complete, ULP terminated the protagonist's contract, and despite stopping the Duggans, the IAA decided to keep the inflated gas prices exactly where they were. By 2023, corruption had reached part of the IAA itself. Several rogue agency agents were secretly selling off-the-books tactical equipment on the black market. During one of these illegal deals, the protagonist infiltrated the agency's lockup, fought through the guards, and stole tactical gear. The stolen equipment was later used in the gangbanger robbery, while the agency once again failed to prevent criminals from exploiting its own resources. What's the IAA's friendship with Merryweather really about? Despite the IAA and Merryweather working closely together during the events of GTA 5, their friendship is far more complicated than it first appears. The two organizations aren't really allies in the traditional sense. Instead, their relationship seems to be based almost entirely on convenience. Before the events of the GTA 5 story, the IAA actually targeted Merryweather's operation, hiring criminals to infiltrate the facility and steal classified research before Merryweather could exploit it. Yet later during the GTA 5 story, we see IAA agents and Merryweather soldiers working side by side at the exact same facility. This suggests that whatever conflict existed between them was pushed aside once cooperation became more useful. But the Doomsday heist proves just how little that partnership really meant. Merryweather forces eventually turn against the agency, with Agent 14 being kidnapped and the IAA facility being raided. So the IAA and Merryweather were never truly friends. They're two powerful organizations willing to cooperate when it benefits them and willing to turn their weapons on each other at the moment it doesn't. Who actually runs the IAA? Despite everything we know about the agency, one surprisingly important question has never been answered. Who actually runs it? The closest person we have is Phoenicia Rackman. Rackman is one of the highest officials. She supervises Agent 14 and appears to have the authority to make decisions involving some of the agency's most classified operations.
If I can, I will fire you.
I'm protected class.
Yes, moronic.
When the Avon Hertz crisis spirals out of control, it's Rackman who takes charge, giving Lester and the protagonist the authority to do whatever is necessary to stop him.
Then you can do exactly what you have to. You have my authority. And we'll get paid? Paid. Yeah, call it the pension contribution. Of course, significant ones. All right, then get this clown out of here.
Agent ULP is also another possibility. The IAA operates for secret operations and corruption, even hiring criminals to do their work, so to not have anyone public to blame makes their operations much easier to come away with. Is the IAA really any better than the FIB? The IAA is often presented as the rival of the FIB, but are they actually any better? In some cases, they do not appear to be protecting the country from genuine threats. They attempted to prevent dangerous research at humane labs from being exploited, helped stop Avon Hertz and Clifford from potentially starting a nuclear war, and later recovered the remaining copies of Clifford's code before they could fall into the wrong hands. But the problem isn't always what the IAA wants to accomplish, it's how they accomplish it. They repeatedly hire criminals to carry out operations that can never be connected back to the government. They blackmail people into working for them, and Karen Daniels is even shown using brutal interrogation methods against Mr. K. And when the agency finally recovered the remaining Clifford technology, they didn't destroy it at all. They secretly kept it for themselves. After discovering that the Duggans were manipulating gas prices, the IAA stopped their operations, but still didn't do anything about the inflated gas prices. Both organizations are fighting for the same thing: power, influence, and a bigger piece of the government's budget. The IAA might occasionally be on the right side of the conflict, but that doesn't necessarily make them the good guys. From UFO conspiracies to secret government operations, the FIB is one of the most mysterious agencies in San Andreas. But what are they hiding? Who is in control of the organization after Steve Haynes' death? And what's the real connection to the aliens? Today we're going to uncover the untold lore of the FIB. Subscribe and enjoy. The FIB is one of the biggest government agencies in the state of San Andreas. Their main focus is surveillance and protection, being the most important and influential law enforcement agency. Although most known operations take place in San Andreas, the Bureau also maintains a presence in Liberty City, confirming that its jurisdiction extends well beyond Los Santos. Everything happening in San Andreas and Liberty City they know about. Every crime, arrest or terrorist attack is either getting dealt by the FIB or ordered by the agency itself. Throughout the story it becomes pretty clear that the FIB is the organization in control, as they have authority over the LSPD, the Sheriff Department, and even news. This is Lester Crest's own description of the Bureau.
These guys are probably framing innocent taxi drivers for terrorism, or torturing civil rights campaigners, or ruining the best bits of the internet, so deal with them as you see fit.
Although the FIB occasionally works alongside Merryweather during major federal operations, their relationship is far from friendly. Both organizations compete for government influence, and officials within the Bureau repeatedly treat the private military company with suspicion. This mirrors the attitude of the IAA, which also questions Merryweather's growing role in national security. Most of the FIB's operations are secret, and rarely disclosed to the public. One of the Bureau's most mysterious operations can be found outside of Los Santos, hidden along Shinsky Passage in Blaine County. At first glance, this location appears to be nothing more than a small utility shed, but when we take a closer look, it reveals something more unusual. The site is equipped with surveillance cameras, satellite dishes, radio antennas and other communication equipment, suggesting it serves as a secret monitoring station rather than just a normal building. The area is usually occupied by construction workers, however FIB agents can occasionally be found guarding the site. Unlike ordinary law enforcement officers, these agents will become hostile if anyone remains in the area for too long, implying that whatever is happening there is considered highly classified. The Bureau has never acknowledged the purpose of the facility, leaving its true function open to interpretation. One theory is that the station exists to monitor humane labs and research, located only a short distance away. This would fit the Bureau's long-running rivalry with the IAA, especially considering the FIB's involvement in the theft. The location is also relatively close to the mysterious FIB presence at the satellite dishes, leading to a theory that the two operations might be connected. The FIB was created as a parody of the FBI, designed to fit the exaggerated word of GTA.
Man, what the f*** want me to do? Kill the president? Wife or something? Or invade some country?
No, something more sensible.
Like its real-life counterpart, the FBI is portrayed as a federal agency, responsible for criminal investigations, intelligence gathering, and national security. However, unlike the real FBI, the FIB is intentionally depicted as deeply corrupt and morally questionable. The agency is shown engaging in unethical actions such as framing innocent people for crime, blackmailing suspects, and manipulating information and surveillance systems. Despite being one of the most secretive organizations, a handful of agents have public profiles. None is more influential than Special Agent Steve Haynes. Haynes joined the FIB in the early 90s and rose through the ranks to command his own special unit. By 2013, he had become one of the Bureau's highest profile agents, overseeing operatives such as Dave Norton and Andrea Sanchez, while also hosting the popular crime television show The Underbelly of Paradise.
In a town full of alien spotters, adults dressed as zombies, and entertainers dressed as cartoon characters, it takes something particularly awful to really catch people's attention.
To the public, Steve Haynes was the face of the Federal Investigation Bureau, a decorated agent dedicated to fighting crime and protecting San Andreas. Behind the cameras, however, he was something entirely different. Haynes was obsessed with power, publicity, and advancing his own career. Rather than following the law, he manipulated investigations, blackmailed criminals into carrying out illegal operations, and repeatedly used federal resources to undermine the rival IAA. Dave Norton represents the other side of the modern FIB. Unlike Haynes, he rarely seeks public attention, instead operating through covert deals and political manipulation. His decision to fake Michael Townley's death in exchange for a career advancement demonstrates how deeply corruption had become within the Bureau's leadership. Another key figure with deep connections to the FIB is Jody Marshall.
Oh! I did not see you there.
I know.
Oh.
You're hard to read.
This is Jody Marshall, FIB Strategic Intelligence.
Unlike Haynes, Marshall was never a public face for the agency. She served as a strategic intelligence operative, specializing in classified information and covert operations. Before joining the Bureau, she also worked as a military communications officer at Fort Zancudo, giving her access to some of San Andreas' most secure networks. During one of her final assignments, Marshall worked alongside the Russian submariner Pavel. While investigating classified Bureau records, she uncovered what she later described as the wrong secrets.
She found out the wrong secrets.
Relax, I'm on almost as many kill lists as you are.
Rather than silencing the information, the FIB chose to silence her. The FIB attempted to kill one of its own agents, With Pavel's help, Marshall disappeared before the assassination could succeed, abandoning the FIB and becoming a rogue intelligence operative. Despite leaving the bureau, she retained something even more valuable than her badge. Years later, she still have access to the FIB servers, archives, surveillance systems, and classified databases. Using this information, she established a covert operations center beneath the Darnell Bros garment factory, where she recruited the GTA Online protagonist to carry out a series of high-risk intelligence operations. She exploits the Bureau's secret, infiltrating military projects and exposing the government, stealing classified technology, using the very intelligence network she once helped build. Her story reveals important truth about the modern FIB. The Bureau's greatest weakness is no longer rival agencies or organized crime. It is the knowledge possessed by its own former agents. As Yodi herself says,
Never trust the IAA, or the FIB, or the PD. Never trust anyone with a badge.
The Federal Investigation Bureau's primary headquarters is located on Power Street and Pillbox Hill, reaching 53 floors above the ground. It serves as the FIB's central command center and the nerve center for federal operation throughout San Andreas. Nearly every major bureau investigation, intelligence operation and counter-terrorism response can be traced back to this building. The building has 3 accessible floors. The first floor is only a security checkpoint, keeping an eye on anyone who enters the building. Inside on floor 49 are offices for senior agents, interrogation rooms and secure archives, where all the data and secret operations are stored. This is the agency's main center of communication and where most of their activities happen. Then we have probably the most unknown floor of them all, floor 53. This is where high-ranking FIB members meet up to discuss the future of the Bureau. Unlike the offices, the top floor is inaccessible for most agents, and the only people who is allowed to enter is decorated officers who are high up in the organization. On the walls there are also pictures of every high-ranking member within the Bureau. Floor 53 is where all the intelligence is happening, where the FIB top discuss their disgusting plans on how they're going to take over the world. The FIB is divided into several specialized divisions. The most commonly encountered agents belong to the Bureau Security Division. These personnel wear formal black business suits with visible FIB credentials, identifying them as federal agents rather than conventional police officers. Their primary responsibility appears to be protecting federal facilities, securing restricted areas, and escorting high-value personnel, but also maintaining security inside the FIB headquarters. They can be seen guarding entrances and operating security checkpoints. Unlike the Bureau's tactical units, Security Division agents only carry standard equipment, including pistols and shotguns, while they wear body armor beneath their suits. They still are underarmed for more serious operations. Another group of agents serves as the Bureau's investigative branch. These agents wear blue FIB windbreakers, similar to those seen in GTA 4. This division is most frequently deployed during criminal investigations and when evidence needs to be collected. Steve Haynes, Dave Norton, and Andrea Sanchez all appear to command teams from this branch while conducting investigations into organized crime. Agents from this division are commonly inspecting evidence. Their equipment is very light considering they are the Bureau's investigation department. Unlike ordinary police detectives, these agents have federal authority and participate in covert operations around San Andreas. The Bureau's elite combat force is its tactical response division, recognizable by heavy body armor, ballistic helmets, and equipment similar to noose. Instead of police markings, however, their armor displays the FIB logo, indicating that they operate direct under the Bureau, rather than the local law enforcement. The unit is clearly based on the real FBI SWAT, and serves as the Bureau's primary counterterrorism and high-risk response force. Tactical agents are deployed whenever federal operations escalate beyond ordinary law enforcement capabilities. They defend the headquarters and are the first unit to respond in large takeover operations. During the confrontation at the court center, tactical agents are heavily involved. In firefight between the FIB, IAA and Merryweather, similar units also appear protecting classified operations throughout GTA Online. This is the most armed unit of them all. The FIB also appears to operate a technical and surveillance division. The branch appears to be responsible for maintaining FIB server farms, communication systems, and drone surveillance. The hidden monitoring station at Chiansky Passage further supports the existence of this division. By 2013, the FIB was already well established. The year was marked by growing tensions between the FIB and IAA. Intelligence reports suggested that a man known as Ferdinand Karimov possessed information that could compromise active bureau operations. Officially, the IAA declared him as dead. Unofficially, the FIB knew more than to take the IAA's word for it. The bureau suspected that the IAA were hiding Karimov and conducting unauthorized interrogations beyond federal oversight. So the FIB needed information. Unable to act openly, Agent Dave Norton recruited an external asset to infiltrate the Los Santos coroner's office. What appeared to be a routine body identification quickly exposed a much larger conspiracy.
The fat deposits on his hips and abdomen suggest a fondness for bleeder burgers.
Oh, Jesus! Back from the dead, mother...
The corpse labeled as Karimov was not Karimov at all. The IAA had falsified the records of Karimov's death, and the bureau had been lied to, leading to officials starting an intelligence war for power. Unfortunately, the IAA had already taken custody of him.
Next, I'll have this thing so far up your ass, your tonsils will be playing shadow puppets. You think we can't do that? We can. It's in our guidelines.
I don't know what you're talking about. I installed cinema equipment, not surveillance.
If Karimov spoke, years of covert bureau operations would be exposed. Agent Steve Haynes authorized an emergency extraction. Working alongside the bureau leadership, Michael Franklin and Trevor launched an aerial operation against the IAA headquarters. Under sniper cover and helicopter support, Karimov was successfully extracted from agency custody and transferred into the Bureau's hands. Despite the successful operation, victory was short-lived. Karimov's intelligence pointed toward a suspected terrorist threat operating within San Andreas. The Bureau could not afford uncertainty. Agent Haynes ordered an aggressive interrogation campaign to uncover the target's identity and location.
What didn't you ask me? I know you're here. I did his home theater. He lives in Chumash. They're right on the Western Highway.
Well, that wasn't so tough, was it?
The operation became controversial. Methods used during questioning pushed ethical boundaries, even among Bureau personnel. Yet the information obtained ultimately allowed agents to identify and neutralize the threat before it could happen. To some it was justice, to others it was the moment the FIB began sacrificing the principles in pursuit of results. While public attention remained elsewhere, another conflict was unfolding. The IAA had accumulated resources and influence that threatened Bureau authority throughout the state. The response was Operation Blitz. Using trusted assets, the Bureau intercepted an armored transport carrying sensitive agency resources. The operation required precision, coordination, and overwhelming force. The FIB had secured valuable assets and struck a significant blow against its rival. The war between agencies was no longer hidden. It had become open competition for power. The IAA was allegedly developing a powerful nerve toxin within Humane Labs. A joint operation was launched. Agents infiltrated the laboratory through underwater access tunnels, while support teams prepared aerial extraction. The substance was secured and removed from the facility. The mission was officially declared as a success. Unofficially, questions remained about who the true enemy really was. Years of covert operation had created powerful enemies, Political rivals and private contractors and agents within the government itself began to question its leadership. The FIB headquarters became the target of a major infiltration operation aimed at obtaining sensitive information that could hurt Steve's reputation. Classified data was stolen.
A team of criminals broke into the FIB's West Coast headquarters in downtown Los Santos earlier. Witnesses say they saw men parachuting in from a helicopter. The FIB claims to have shot down their helicopter. The aircraft crashed into the building, decimating several floors. The criminals were able to escape the building.
For the Bureau, it was more than a security failure. It was humiliation. The illusion of invulnerability had been shattered. The aftermath of the raid led to the Bureau in chaos. Internal divisions arrived as trusted agents became suspects. At the court center, a meeting intended to resolve the crisis led to open warfare involving Bureau agents. The battlefield represented everything the Bureau had become: powerful, influential, and corrupted. By the end of the confrontation, careers were ruined, and the Bureau's future was thrown into uncertainty. Although enemies continued to threaten the Bureau's stability, anyone capable of exposing the FIB's dirty work threatened the agency and its image. So instead, they tried to arrest the criminals who had been secretly working with the FIB. The agency sent its forces to the Grand Bank's steel foundry to kill the criminals, alongside other agencies like Merryweather, only to be completely humiliated by just 3 criminals. The conflict reached its end when their highly honorable agent Steve Haynes died.
Oh my god! The guy! What's his name? He shot him!
He was one of the most influential and controversial figures in Bureau history. His death symbolized the end of an era. But even years after the death of Haynes, the Bureau did not disappear, it adapted. The FIB continued operating throughout San Andreas. One of these operations involved classified documents being exchanged in Mission Row. The deal was never meant to become public. FIB agents were meeting with members of the professionals, trading sensitive information that could expose criminal networks and possibly Bureau surveillance activity. But the exchange was compromised. Martin Madrazo learned of the documents and sent the protagonists to intercept the meeting. The result was another embarrassment for the Bureau, and classified intelligence ended up in the hands of organized crime. This proved that even after the events of 2013, the agency was still using criminals and making deals in the shadows. The rivalry between the FIB and IAA did not end with Karimov. Years later, the conflict returned. During the Humane Labs operation, the IAA attempted to transfer key codes, but the FIB discovered the exchange. Agents stormed the parking lot and opened fire, trying to stop the transfer.
The FIB, what are these clowns doing here?
Over there! Move up! Move up! Hands in the air!
And the codes were taken by private criminals. Karen escaped and the Bureau was left with another failed operation. During the executives and other criminals update, as private organizations began gaining more influence, the Bureau found itself involved in even more unstable operations. During Securiserve's hostile takeover contracts, FIB agents were seen protecting important briefcases at Los Santos Airport. Federal assets and information had leverage enough to require armed Bureau protection, but the rise of the Securiserve criminal organizations meant that even federal property was no longer safe. The briefcase was stolen under FIB protection. The organization responsible escaped with it, and the criminals now had the same amount of power as FIB itself. During the preparations for the Diamond Casino heist, Lester Crest explains that the casino security systems use government-level encryption similar to technology employed by the FIB.
Yeah, if we want to hack them, which we do, we're gonna need some FIB technology from their building on Pillbox Hill.
To bypass those keypads, the crew must obtain an official Bureau hacking device inside their headquarters. Once the hacking device is recovered, the alarm is triggered, exposing the infiltration and forcing the crew to fight their way out before escaping the responding authorities. During the Los Santos tuners, a mysterious FIB client hired criminals to rob the Union Depository and steal gold. After the crew escaped, the gold was delivered directly to the FIB client. By 2021, the Bureau's mass surveillance program became a target during the investigation into Dr. Dre's stolen music. Franklin Clinton and Nemani discovered that the only way to track the phone's data signature was through the FIB's own server.
Man, nothing to make a player feel like he's got back in the game more than with the FIB. Alright, so I got you all the right tools, homie. Everything you need to get inside. Just get that chopper over to headquarters and Imani will tell us how we can track down Dre's phone.
So the agency launched an operation against the Bureau headquarters. They entered through the roof and stole hard drive containing surveillance data. The FIB responded with armed agents and helicopters, but failed to stop the theft. By 2022, during the criminal enterprises, the FIB rivalry with the IAA reached a new level during Operation Paper Trail.
My duties may include interrogation, phone tapping, suppressing reports, inventing reports, paying bribes, taking bribes, the trafficking of drugs and arms, the misappropriation of funds, and lying to the American people whenever strategically necessary.
What?
Agent ULP discovered that the Bureau was involved in a deal with the Duggan crime family. The Duggans were attempting to obtain seized technology from the FIB storage, including dangerous remains connected to Clifford. The GTA Online protagonist infiltrated the FIB site and stole hardware from both the FIB headquarters and the Bureau depot. The Bureau responded by deploying surveillance drones and setting a trap. The FIB captured the asset, planted a bomb in a van, and attempted to frame the IAA in a false flag operation.
The motel room was a trap. The oldest trick in the Bureau's book. They throw you into an unmarked IAA vehicle, blow it up, and make it look like one of our field ops went bad. You don't have long. Defuse the bomb and bring the van to us. We're gonna need it as evidence if this operation goes south.
But the plan failed. The bomb was defused and the AIA gained evidence against the Bureau. Mason Duggan met with the FIB contact at the Mile High Club construction site, attempting to purchase the remaining Clifford drives. The deal was interrupted. Duggan was killed, the briefcase was recovered, and their involvement in the conspiracy was exposed. By 2025, the Bureau's corruption continued into the No Way scandal. A powerful corruption was attempting to control transportation and public data across Los Santos. Behind the scenes, an FIB handler was secretly working with No Way mercenaries, helping protect their operations and bury evidence.
Okay, ladies, change of plan. I'm sure you all heard about the attack on the No Way depot. From this point forward, sensitive data is now under 24-hour protection. We are the protection. I'm dropping the location of the data center now. Keeping that site safe is your #1 priority. So take a break, kit up, and be ready to move out.
The protagonist infiltrated the No Way network and discovered that the scheme had Bureau support. The FIB agent's briefing exposed the connection, but it wasn't long after that the documents were intercepted. The Bureau van was attacked and the evidence was stolen before it could disappear into federal storage. The final strike against the Bureau came when Avi Schwartzman arranged a direct attack on the FIB database. The FIB lost control of the No Way files and another Bureau cover-up collapsed. By 2026, the FIB is no longer the unstoppable agency it once appeared to be, after repeatedly getting destroyed by a bunch of secure reserve organizations and unknown criminals. What's the FIB's connection to the aliens? The FIB's connection to the aliens is never directly explained, but several events throughout the game suggests the Bureau is aware of the UFOs and may even be involved in covering it up. The strongest clue appears after achieving 100% completion in GTA 5. One of the UFOs that appear over Sandy Shores has the letters FIB printed on the UFO. This is the only UFO in the game with government markings, strongly implying some kind of connection between the Bureau and extraterrestrial life. The Bureau also maintains several mysterious surveillance sites across Blaine County. One example is the hidden monitoring station, equipped with a surveillance system. Because the station is located near another mysterious government operation, it may be part of a larger conspiracy. In the original version of GTA 5, FIB agents and scientists could be found during certain times of the day near the satellite dishes in Sandy Shores. This suggests that the FIB may be monitoring extraterrestrial life, but it still wouldn't explain how the FIB logo ended up on one of the UFOs. How corrupt is the Los Santos Police Department? What role are they playing in shaping the media and public perception? And are they truly independent, or are they as corrupt, if not more corrupt, as the other agencies like the FIB or the IAA? In today's video we're going to explore the corruption of the LSPD. If you enjoy, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get right into the video.
So tell me, what do you think about the Canadians? The worst, the absolute worst, worse than the Mexicans.
The Los Santos Police Department is an incompetent, aggressive and corrupt law enforcement force with highly questionable behavior, multiple divisions and stations, and equipment ready to take down anyone. Yet when it really matters, they don't know how to react, even being humiliated and defeated by us three simple criminals. Despite being one of the largest and most advanced police forces in the state of San Andreas, the LSPD operates within a highly complex structure of divisions, stations and specialized units. On paper it should be the most effective law enforcement organization in the country, but in reality they couldn't be further from the truth. The department's entire identity already hints at the darker side. Its motto, "Obey and Survive," is a clear parody of the real-life LAPD slogan, "To protect and to serve." Rather than promising safety, the slogan sounds like a warning to the public. Even the LSPD badge pushes this idea further, featuring an icon that appears to show officers dragging a civilian down the steps of the city hall, reinforcing the idea that force and intimidation is normalized within the police. The Los Santos Police Department was founded in 1889, with their main base of operation being the Mission Row Police Station. Here is where most of the police backup comes from when the situation is getting too heated. The LSPD were founded during a time when Los Santos was still small and rapidly growing in the American West. As crime spread during this chaotic period, law enforcement agencies were established to bring order to what was essentially a lawless environment. Over time, the LSPD grew into one of the largest police forces in San Andreas, alongside other police departments like the Liberty City Police. However, its growth in size did not necessarily translate into professionalism or effectiveness, as they are often very reckless and overall make some really dumb tactics. The LSPD is heavily inspired by the Los Angeles Police Department, which makes sense because Los Santos is inspired by that town. That inspiration is visible in the uniforms, the rank structures, and the overall station layout. But instead of presenting a respected police institution, GTA 5 presents a department that exaggerates the worst accusations, often aimed at real-world policing, like the police being incompetent, corrupt, and kind of racist.
I only listen to white rappers.
I think that's a good idea.
Hey, you keep us safe, all right, officer?
You've crossed the line! Who do you think you are? He's got a weapon. Suck my dick!
One of the first incidents that the police had in the story was during the Evangelico store robbery. The robbery involved 3 criminals on motorcycles. Police attempted to stop them but failed due to poor condition. A 4th criminal in a truck disabled pursuing officers, allowing the robbers to escape with a large howl. What makes this failure especially embarrassing is that this was not a massive assault or a citywide terrorist attack. It was a robbery carried out by a very small crew with a simple escape plan. Yet, even the LSPD could not contain the situation. That says a lot about how poorly they respond under pressure. In Cypress Flats, 2 criminals robbed an armored truck. Despite destroying large forces, the police were overwhelmed Snipers were eliminated, a helicopter was shot down with a rocket launcher, and the criminals escaped after a prolonged shootout. This is where the LSPD's doctrine of overwhelming force begins to collapse. The department can flood an area with men, vehicles and gunfire, but when facing heavily armed criminals, they are useless. The LSPD was tasked with escorting Molly Schultz to the airport. A suspect began chasing her, leading to a dangerous pursuit across the airport. Despite intervention, both ignored police orders. The situation escalated into chaos, and Molly ultimately made a fatal mistake. The police failed once again, damaging their reputation further. This incident also shows one of the strangest contradictions in the LSPD's behavior. Officers at the Los Santos airport are among the most heavily armed regular units in the game, yet even one of the most secure and sensitive locations in the city, they still fail to establish control over the situation. The largest bank in Los Santos was robbed in a highly coordinated operation. The main attack was a distraction, while gold was stolen underground. Despite massive reinforcements, including news units and helicopters, the police were overwhelmed. Even a combat helicopter was destroyed. The criminals escaped through tunnels, leaving the LSPD defeated once again. This is probably the clearest proof that the LSPD is a broken institution. The Union Depository is one of the most important financial targets in the city, and the response should have been overwhelming. At this point, the issue can no longer be explained as bad luck. When the same institution fails this many times, it starts to look structural. The police is well armed with a very particular behavior. The LSPD has jurisdiction across all of Los Santos, including the international airport and the port, even though in real life those locations would usually have their own separate police departments. That means the LSPD's reach is unusually broad, which may be one of the reasons their competence is low compared to real-life police forces. Despite their sometimes racist actions, their officers are diverse, including white, black and Hispanic individuals. It is also the first city to have female officers, although they are a minority. Officers are commonly found at the airport, outside police stations and during pursuits. Most of the police force are located near the Mission Row police station, where they can be seen often interacting with homeless individuals. Outside Mission Row, police presence is rare, unless responding to crimes. That gives the impression that the department is less focused on everyday public safety, which is one of the reasons you can quite literally steal a car and not get wanted. The LSPD's jurisdiction extends beyond just central Los Santos, covering surrounding areas such as Del Perro, Rockford Hills and Davis, which together form Los Santos County. The wide jurisdiction requires coordination and communication across multiple stations, something that we've seen the department constantly struggle with. What role does the police play in shaping the media and public perception? The LSPD plays a big role in shaping both media and public perception, largely through its highly visible and aggressive approaches when responding to emergencies. Their frequent use of force, dramatic car chases, and constant presence during criminal activity create an image of a city overwhelmed by danger. This in turn encourages the public to view strict and often violent law enforcement as necessary to maintaining order. At the same time, media outlets such as LS Quick both reflect and amplify this image by labeling the LSPD as one of the most violent police forces. The media contributes to a cycle where police behavior and public opinion reinforce each other. Whether intentionally or not, the LSPD's actions keeps crime and policing at the center of public attention. The department's implied corruption and lack of accountability raise questions about how much influence it may have over everything published on the internet. It is possible that the LSPD benefits from the population being portrayed as dangerous, giving the police a better reason to act aggressively. The LSPD does not just respond to crime, it actively shapes how crime, authority, and justice are understood by the public. Rockstar's own description of the department says the LSPD is famous for tackling crime in the most aggressive and unhinged way possible. The LSPD doesn't just recruit officers, it actively marks itself to the public through propaganda-style advertisements. These posters present a completely different image of the department compared to what we see in gameplay. One example features the slogan, "Here for you," alongside two officers of different colors standing in front of Los Santos. This creates the illusion of a professional dedicated to protecting the public, but also a force that doesn't discriminate, which we know is not really true. Another ad goes even further, openly promoting recruitment with phrases like short career, long retirement, full pension, and free gun, and with a woman and a man fist bumping. If the LSPD is attracting recruits with promises of easy benefits rather than discipline and service, it would explain why so many officers seem untrained or corrupt. These advertisements act as a form of image control. They sell the idea of a police force to the public while hiding the reality of incompetence behind the scenes. In the mission Eye in the Sky, we infiltrate the police station to steal a helicopter. However, once entering, an officer is seen choking a suspect inside the station, reflecting their motto, obey and survive. The department is implied to be systematically racist and corrupt, with alleged ties to escort services. According to Vincent Effenberger, the LSPD collaborates with major gangs in Los Santos and Blaine County in exchange for money.
There's a new cartel running a large-scale cocaine operation out of the Cluck and Bell factory in Paleto Bay. And be in no doubt, the cops, they're not only turning a blind eye, they're actively facilitating. If you ask me, the cartel and the cops can both go to hell, preferably on the back of the same bullet.
One of them being the Cluck and Bell cartel. It is implied that the LSPD is heavily corrupt. It is also implied that they hire and have sex with prostitutes, although this cannot be seen in-game. However, despite these claims, a pilot in the mission Eye in the Sky is telling us that they are actually good, non-corrupt officers in the LSPD. Although the game suggests that some good officers still exist, they seem buried inside a deeply rotten system. That's what makes the LSPD so interesting from a lore perspective. It is not shown as purely evil, it feels more like an institution where corruption has become normalized, where even decent people are forced to operate inside the system. How corrupt is the LSPD? In a world like San Andreas that is filled with criminals and corruption, it doesn't really come to surprise that the police force is acting the same way. But the LSPD isn't just slightly corrupt, it shows signs of systemic corruption at nearly every level. From street officers to higher command, the department consistently abuses its power. Officers use force without hesitation, like in the mission Eye in the Sky. They escalate situations unnecessarily and often act more like the military in war rather than actual police. Their behavior suggests that law enforcement in Los Santos isn't about justice, it's about control. Confirmed by Vincent, there is strong evidence that there are officers working with criminal organizations, accepting bribes and turning blind eye to illegal activity when it benefits them. Instead of getting rid of crime, they often seem to coexist with it. Officers are rarely punished for their actions, no matter how reckless or violent they are. This lack of consequences creates a system where corruption is not only tolerated but expected. And when you combine that with their constant failures during major crimes, it raises an important question. Are they incompetent or are they just too greedy? Despite its size and resources, the LSPD suffers from a deeply flawed internal structure. The complexity of its division and overlapping responsibilities often lead to confusion in the chain of command. Officers frequently act independently rather than as a coordinated unit, which becomes especially dangerous during large-scale incidents. The department appears to follow a rank system similar to the Los Angeles Police, including positions such as Officer 1 to Officer 3+1, Detective and Captain. On paper, that suggests a clear hierarchy and disciplined command structure. In reality, almost none of that structure appears to function that well. Officers break formation, ignore tactics, and rush directly into danger, and often create more chaos than the criminals they are chasing. So the issue is not the LSPD's ranks, divisions, or equipment. The issue is that all of those systems exist, and yet they still fail to produce competent policing. Some well-known police officers are Captain A.P. Jones, who has an office in the Mission Row police station, Officer Vasquez, who appears on the artwork arresting a woman, and Police Officer Ronson, who can be seen on their official website. These public officers give the department its identity and visibility in the media. Officers often let aggression override common sense, leading to often reckless behavior, such as crashing their own vehicles during pursuits, setting barricades incorrectly, and sometimes even running over fellow officers. These failures are not isolated incidents, but recurring patterns, suggesting that the issue is not the individual, but in the system as a whole. There is even a line from Dave Norton during Three's Company, suggesting that police training lasts only 2 weeks.
These guys have 2 weeks training. You should be able to lose them in your sleep.
Which would explain a lot. Whether that statement is fully accurate or not, it reinforces the game's idea that the LSPD is badly trained and lacks competence. The LSPD includes several specialized units established in the city. Firstly, they have a traffic division responsible for ticketing vehicles illegally parked, instructing the driver to move. They are easily identified by their distinct appearance and often wear green vests and blue pants. They only appear in the Mission, the Yule store, and on the TV in Mr. Phillips, with Albert Stalley being the only known member.
Albert Story had a lucky escape when the thieves ran straight into it.
Yeah, I was just doing my job, and I say to this guy, hey, you gotta move these bikes.
The LSPD has a water division known as the Los Santos Harbor Patrol. Despite being part of the LSPD specifically, they will respond to players with a wanted level in the water anywhere on the map. They drive police predator boats and often patrol the waters around Fort Zancudo and the Los Santos Airport. The LSPD has a division specifically for the Los Santos Airport on top of the regular LSPD uniforms and hats. Airport police wear bulletproof vests. They are often seen patrolling the arrivals and departure zones in pairs, holding carbine rifles, and also the aviation division. The officers that are part of this division are trained to pilot air vehicles, such as providing air support in Police Mavericks to LSPD officers on the ground, and transporting informants in planes. The pilot's uniform consists of green flight suits and occasionally a white pilot helmet. They only appear in the Mission Eye in the Sky and Extradition. These units also work alongside external agencies such as the FIB and the military. This shows that the LSPD is not some small local department. It has the kind of specialization you would expect from a massive police force. And yet, even with all of these divisions, they still are horrible at their job. They operate a news station at the airport, which is the National Office of Security Enforcement. The LSPD has a network of police stations across the county. The wide infrastructure should make the department highly responsive across Los Santos, but again, gameplay shows the opposite. The LSPD has the buildings, the vehicles, and equipment, but still fails. The department's main pursuit car is the police cruiser Interceptor, while standard black and white cruisers and Buffalo variants are also used around stations and in patrols. For heavier response, the LSPD deploys police transporters and police riot armored trucks during high wanted levels. In missions and special operations, they are also associated with vehicles like unmarked cruisers, police bikes, and FIB-style Grangers. If necessary, the department have access to more advanced aircraft equipment such as the Titan and P996 laser. This is an incredible amount of tactical variety for a city police force. Their weaponry is also broader than it first appears. In addition to pistols and pump shotguns, officers may use carbine rifles, advanced rifles, and sniper rifles. In other words, the LSPD has no shortage of firepower. Their problem is not lack of weapons, it's their low IQ. The uniforms of the LSPD also reinforce the department's identity. Officers wear dark navy blue uniforms similar to those of the LAPD, with badges on their chest, rank chevrons on the sleeves, and full-duty belts carrying magazines and anything from handcuffs and sidearms. In more serious circumstances, officers wear body armor, especially at the airport. Detectives, meanwhile, often appear in tuxedos while driving unmarked cruisers, which are supposed to protect them from being detected. Even Michael has an unused LSPD uniform in the game files, and GTA Online once allowed players to wear police outfits before being removed in later patches. Is the LSPD truly independent, or is it as corrupt as the other agencies like the FIB or IAA? While the LSPD appears to operate as a normal police force, there are several hints that throughout the game suggests it may not be entirely independent. Its behavior marked by excessive force, poor accountability, and implied systemic issues raises questions about whether it functions under its own authority or part of a larger corruption. Agencies like the FIB and the IAA are openly portrayed as manipulative and corrupt agencies, with Steve Haynes manipulating the protagonists and the IAA trying to stage terrorist attacks to gain more government funds. However, the LSPD is seen as a tool rather than a fully corrupt organization. Their willingness to engage in reckless or unethical actions without visible consequences may indicate either internal corruption or external influence from higher authorities. The lack of oversight shown by the FIB in the game suggests that misconduct within the LSPD is either ignored or quietly supported. The LSPD may look similar to the FIB and IAA, but instead operates on a different level. They appear to be as deeply corrupted as the other agencies. One clue is how often the LSPD overlaps with outside forces like news. Instead of looking like a clean local police department with clear limits, the LSPD often looks like one part of a larger power with no accountability. The LSPD will sometimes open fire immediately on suspects instead of attempting arrests. Officers have also been dragging wounded civilians or fellow officers into cover during firefights, which is one of the few signs of training. The LSPD is ultimately an incompetent, corrupt, and ineffective police force, repeatedly outmatched by organized criminals. Though, as we know, these were no ordinary criminals. The LSPD fits perfectly into the word. They are armed and legit, but rotten from the inside. So when we ask whether the LSPD is corrupt, the answer seems obvious, yes. But the more important question is how deep the corruption goes. And based on everything we see, brutality, racism, incompetence, gang connections and lack of oversight, it may be one of the clearest examples in the game of a public institution that has completely lost any sight of justice. The LSPD doesn't just fail to protect Los Santos, in many ways it helps define everything that is broken about it. The Los Santos County Sheriff's Department is the primarily law enforcement agency responsible for maintaining law and order in the Blaine County region. But who are they really? What's their connection to the LSPD? And how corrupt are they? Today we're going to uncover the untold lore of the Los Santos County Sheriff's Department. Subscribe and enjoy. Just like the LSPD, the Sheriff's Department quickly responds to crime, gives tickets to people who are speeding, and engage in intense shootouts if necessary. They patrol the streets of Sandy Shores and Paleto Bay, but can also be seen helping the highway patrol respond to criminals on the highway. While the county police appears to just be chilling around, smoking and talking to each other, they usually respond to emergencies, given that certain important events happened in the game in Blaine County. Unlike the Los Santos Police Department, the Sheriff's Department is responsible for policing the rural communities of Blaine County. Their deputies know the area well, allowing them to respond quickly to crimes in remote locations like Sandy Shores, Grapeseed and Paleto Bay. Despite often appearing more laid back than the LSPD, they're just as capable of launching large-scale manhunts and tactical responses when the situation demands. Since several major missions take place in Blaine County, deputies are often the first law enforcement officers to confront Michael, Trevor and Franklin. Interestingly, they don't only patrol the rural areas of the map. Sheriff deputies can occasionally respond to crimes in areas normally patrolled by the LSPD, such as part of Vinewood Hills, Del Perro Beach and Vespucci Beach. The Los Santos County Sheriff's Department is heavily inspired by real-life Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, one of the largest sheriff's departments in the United States. They have a lot of similarities, including beige uniforms, green trousers, patrol vehicles, badges, and even the department's overall rank structure. Just like the GTA 5 Sheriff's Department, they are responsible for policing communities outside the city. Instead of focusing on a single city like the Los Santos Police, sheriff deputies patrol unincorporated areas and smaller towns throughout Los Angeles County, making them the perfect inspiration for the Blaine County law enforcement. However, the Sheriff's Department has in proportion a much bigger jurisdiction than the real-life inspiration, since they patrol almost the entire map of GTA 5, other than parts of Los Santos. The year is 2013 and the County Sheriff's Department has had a quiet and very comfortable year. They did their usual work, patrolling the countryside, searching for any crackhead who seemed interesting enough to detain, when suddenly they get the news that a trailer park just outside the outskirts of Sandy Shores is burning. Homes were burnt down and people began running, but thankfully no one innocent were hurt. The trailer park belonged to one of Blaine County's most fearless gangs, the Lost MC. The police were shocked and couldn't help to wonder who would be able to do something like this. Then another local gang was wiped out, but this time it was the O'Neill brothers.
Jesus!
I just spoke to that maniac Trevor. He's coming. Get down to the meth lab to protect it. I hope he don't get through these idiots, but we know they're idiots. Come on.
Who now had their own base, the O'Neill Ranch, burning up in flames. The county police just couldn't help to wonder who was responsible for this. Days went by as suddenly they got reports of an explosion in Raton Canyon.
Elk in the road! Oh!
Once arriving, they searched the area, only to find that the O'Neill brothers had crashed their car, and their dead bodies were found around the forest. It was almost like someone had hunted them down, one by one, and what they didn't know was that they were soon to be the next. 3 armed men had entered the Blaine County Savings Bank, holding all the personnel and visitors as hostages. The responding officers called for backup.
If I ever meet this alarm guy, I can shoot him.
Not if I get to him first.
Yeah.
Stay back! We got hostages!
Tell the sheriff the 211 is confirmed. We're gonna need everything we got down here.
The department sent all their available officers to the bank and stood there waiting for the criminals to walk out. However, the police was never going to survive what came next.
I don't care if they surrender. I'm killing me some bad guys.
Now let the hostages go, and we'll talk like gentlemen. Time to face the music.
Sweet mother shit.
Dozens of officers were killed, police cars were blown, and a gas station, leading to an international incident where the military had to deploy. The police were underarmed and, just like in the forest, slaughtered like animals. Despite not playing a major role in the story, the Los Santos County Sheriff's Department does have several named deputies and officials. Unlike the LSPD, whose officers are mostly anonymous, a handful of sheriffs are known by name, suggesting they intended the department to feel like a more close unit. Officer Jernigan is one of the very few named female law enforcement officers. Another known officer is Deputy Grims, who appears to be full-time working within the sheriff department. He is stationed in Paleto Bay and appears during the Paleto score, where he says,
"I don't care if they surrender. I'm killing me some bad guys."
His name and status as a county sheriff may be a reference to Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead, although physically he looks similar to another Walking Dead character, Shane Walsh, who is also a police officer. This connection is further confirmed by his fellow named deputy having the name Kirkman, after the writer of The Walking Dead, suggesting that many names of the police force are inspired by that film. And then, most importantly, we have Deputy Kirkman. Kirkman appears during the Paleto score as the first unit to respond to the Blaine County Savings Bank alarm. His death in the Paleto score appears to be canon, as after the mission, it is revealed he survived. The department operates countless stations around San Andreas and Blaine County. The Sandy Shores Sheriff Station is located at the outline of Sandy Shores on Alhambra Drive. The Sandy Shores Sheriff Station serves as the main headquarters for law enforcement in the southern half of Blaine County. From here, deputies patrol Sandy Shores, Grapeseed, Harmony, and the surrounding desert. One interesting detail is that the station shares its building with the Sandy Shores Medical Center. This means deputies and paramedics work side by side, allowing officers to quickly bring injured civilians or fellow deputies for treatment without traveling across the county. Inside the station itself, there are holding cells, offices, and a detailed map of Blaine County. The Paleto Bay Sheriff Office serves as the headquarters for law enforcement in the northern half of Blaine County. From here, deputies patrol Paleto Bay, Mount Chiliad, Procopio Beach, and the forest surrounding the town. The Paleto Bay office features its own county jail, allowing deputies to process and hold suspects locally without transporting them across the county. Behind the building there is a helipad, showing that the sheriff's department is capable of coordinating aerial operations during large-scale manhunts. There is a sign outside the station which proudly reads, "The Paleto Bay Sheriff's Office has successfully managed 35 days without a narcotics arrest." Whether this means that Paleto Bay is mostly just a crime-free town, or that their police officers aren't searching hard enough is unclear. The Davis Sheriff Station is the department's most unusual station. Unlike the other stations, it is located deep inside Los Santos on Innocence Boulevard, despite Davis being part of the city. Even stranger, the building is covered in Los Santos County Sheriff signs, yet almost every officer and vehicle stationed there belongs to the LSPD. City of Los Santos seals can be found on the building, making it unclear whether the station is controlled by the Sheriff's Department or police officers, or somehow both. Davis is based on Compton, a city that relies on the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department instead of operating its own police force. The station is also connected to the LSPD impound lot and contains a secured parking area, heavy police vehicles, and a rooftop helipad. This suggests that the Davis station may function as a shared law enforcement base, allowing the LSPD and county sheriff to coordinate operations in one of the most dangerous parts of Los Santos. What's the county sheriff's connection to the LSPD? Despite being separate agencies, the county sheriff's department and the LSPD appears to work very closely together. Unlike some GTA law enforcement agencies that rarely interact, the county sheriffs and LSPD regularly back each other up across San Andreas. When major incidents happen, jurisdiction seems to become far less important than stopping the threat. For example, during the Paleto score, sheriff's deputies are the first to respond, to the robbery. As the situation escalates, the response grows to include highway patrol units, news, and eventually even the military. Although Sheriff's Department primarily patrols Blaine County, deputies will sometimes respond to crimes in Vinewood Hills, Del Perro Beach, and Vespucci Beach, areas that would normally fall under LSPD jurisdiction. This suggests that the two departments operate under a mutual aid agreement, allowing either agency to assist when necessary. Their strongest connection is the Davis Sheriff Station. Whether this is simply a developer oversight or an intentional joint operation center has never been officially explained by Rockstar. The LSPD handles the city while the Sheriff's Department handles the countryside, sharing resources and supporting each other whenever a situation grows beyond one department's capabilities. How do the County Sheriff's Department cooperate with the military? Although the Sheriff's Department and the military are completely separate organizations, they do occasionally find themselves working together during large-scale emergencies. Like in the Paleto score, the military is being used as a more heavy law enforcement, coming to the rescue when it becomes obvious that the situation is far beyond what the rural police department is equipped to handle. After suffering heavy casualties and losing control of the situation, command of the response effectively shifts to the military. Merryweather is not involved. Instead, soldiers from Fort Zancudo deploy. Rather than competing for authority, the Sheriff's Department continues fighting alongside the military, as both agencies attempt to contain the same threat. This suggests that the military acts as the government's final line of defense whenever an incident exceeds the capability of local law enforcement. Interestingly, this cooperation appears to be extremely rare, as there is no story missions outside from the Paleto score where the military helps the local law enforcement, showing that these occasions doesn't happen that often. How corrupt is the Sheriff Department? Like almost every law enforcement agency, the Los Santos County Sheriff's Department isn't completely clean. Sheriff's deputies are known to accept bribes during traffic stops, and even from local drug gangs. That suggests corruption certainly exists within the department, although it appears to be more opportunistic than systemized. But unlike the LSPD, there is actually very few missions that shows sheriff deputies abusing their power. Instead, most sheriffs are portrayed as ordinary rural officers trying to keep order in one of the most chaotic parts of San Andreas. The San Andreas State Park Rangers are one of the most overlooked law enforcement units in GTA 5. Unlike the LSPD or the Blaine County Sheriff's Office, they are not particularly seen that much in the game. Instead, they operate quietly in the background, hidden in the forests, mountains, and deserts. But who are they really? What role do they play in the game? And are they just simple park guards or something more? In this video, we're breaking down everything about the San Andreas Park Rangers, so subscribe and enjoy. Unlike most police forces in GTA 5, the San Andreas Park Rangers don't focus on cities or highways. Their jurisdiction is nature. They patrol areas like Vinewood Hills, Mount Chiliad, Paleto Forest, Grand Senora Desert, and Raton Canyon. Basically anywhere you'd expect wildlife, hiking trails, or national parks. This makes them one of the few agencies that operate primarily off-road. You won't really see them in the downtown Los Santos. Instead, they're out in the middle of nowhere. And while their presence is less notable, they are still a law enforcement, meaning if you mess with them, you're getting a wanted level, just like any other police force. They follow the same system as other law enforcement. They will call for backup, escalate force, and coordinate with nearby units. They're not a separate police department like the LSPD, but rather a specialized division under the San Andreas Parks Commission. The San Andreas Park Rangers are clearly inspired by the real world California State Park Peace Officers. Just like in real life, they're responsible for protecting parks, wildlife, and visitors. Their uniforms reflect this perfectly. They usually wear green or brown shirts and pants, very similar to sheriff departments, but with a more outdoor focused style. Even their vehicles match the theme, a white SUV with green stripes, designed for rough terrain rather than city patrol. In real life, park rangers can have full police authority, and GTA reflects that surprisingly well. Unlike some other police units that are tied to major missions, the park rangers appear more organically, which also makes them easy to miss, since they don't have dedicated missions focused entirely on them. You can encounter them patrolling remote areas, responding to crimes in rural locations, and during random events like countryside robbery. They've also been seen chasing suspects near places like Grapeseed and Sonora Way, and occasionally they show up in situations you wouldn't expect, even working alongside other agencies. This makes them feel like a support unit, not the main force, but still active when needed. A known member of the agency is Ranger Lewis, who can be found pursuing a criminal near Rex Diner on Sonora Way in a random event. The player can choose whether to help the ranger apprehend the criminal or help the criminal escape, possibly by killing the ranger.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I won't forget this unless I'm asked about it in court.
If the player chooses to assist Lewis and can be heard calling for backup transport over his radio when he identifies himself by name.
I appreciate the help, buddy. I'll take it from here. Best we don't mention any of this on the paperwork. This is Officer Lewis, suspect apprehended and requesting backup. Over.
Another unusual connection is Yo from the Civil Border Patrol.
When you could be in town f***ing some girls and further destroying the gene pool!
Hey, there's a real problem here.
Да, люди, мотивированы необходимостью прокормить свои семьи, едут сюда работать по-черному за копейки и прут в эту страну!
It's a disaster!
In the mission An American Welcome, he reveals that he actually works as a park ranger, suggesting that not every ranger is exactly by the book.
How'd you get your hands on this patrol car?
I'm a proud park ranger, my friend, a trained security professional enjoying his time off.
He uses his park ranger car in his spare time to carry out illegal actions. The San Andreas park rangers behave similarly to other police units, but with a slightly different focus. They are more calm during patrol and more observant in remote areas, though if the situation calls for it, they will become aggressive. If you commit a crime near them, they will respond quickly by pursuing suspects and opening fire like other law enforcement agencies would. One interesting detail is how they interact with wildlife. Rangers can actually be seen chasing and shooting dangerous animals like mountain lions, which adds another layer to the role. They're not just dealing with criminals, they're also dealing with the wild, dangerous animals that cross the roads. Interestingly, female park rangers behave differently in-game. Due to how they're coded, they don't always trigger a wanted level and can even fight against other police units. When it comes to equipment, the park rangers are fairly well equipped. Their primary vehicle is a park ranger SUV. In certain situations, they may also use other vehicles like sheriff cruisers and unmarked vehicles during missions. As for weapons, they carry pistols, carbine rifles, shotguns and SMGs. This puts them on a similar level to other law enforcement units, which again shows they're not just park guards, but fully capable officers. Unlike the North Yankton police, the park rangers actually have visible stations. Some of their known stations include the Beaver Bush Ranger Station in Vinewood Hills and the Raton Canyon Ranger Office. They also seem to operate from the Vespucci Beach Police Station. These locations help them feel more real and visible in the game, functioning more like an agency, even if most players never pay attention to them. One strange detail is that the park rangers can sometimes be seen at the Bolingbroke Penitentiary, even though it has nothing to do with the parkland. So while the San Andreas park rangers don't get much attention in GTA 5, they are far from irrelevant. They operate in places most players ignore. They handle situations most police don't deal with, and they quietly exist as one of the most realistic law enforcement units in the game. A unit further away from the corruption, with no huge involvement in the story. Just a solid agency doing its job. So yeah, You might not notice them at first, but once you do, you'll realize they've been there the whole time. The San Andreas Highway Patrol is one of the most overlooked government forces in the game. But who are they? What purpose do they serve? And are they in fact just another corrupt government force, bought up for money and used for the wealthy? We're going to go over everything in this video. Subscribe and enjoy. The Highway Patrol operates mostly on the northern and eastern side of the map. Their main purpose is monitoring the highways in order to prevent people from speeding. They oversee areas like the Great Ocean Highway, which stretches itself from Los Santos all the way to Paleto Bay on the western side of San Andreas. The Sonora Freeway, which goes through the eastern side, just besides the Yellow Yak Inn and the satellite dishes. But also the Palomino Freeway, which is a big, often overlooked highway located at the southeastern tip of the map. The Highway Patrol can also sometimes be seen patrolling the smaller highways of Blaine County, like the Route 68, showing that even in a crime-filled place like Sandy Shores, the police take speeding very seriously, and unlike other police forces, they don't operate from visible stations, instead constantly patrolling highways themselves. The San Andreas Highway Patrol is heavily inspired by the real-life Californian Highway Patrol, also known as the CHP. The CHP is a state-level law enforcement agency in California, responsible for patrolling highways, enforcing traffic laws, and responding to accidents. Just like the Highway Patrol in GTA 5, one of the biggest similarities is their focus on highway enforcement. In real life, the CHP officers spend most of the time monitoring speeding drivers, reckless driving, and dangerous behavior. This is clearly reflected in GTA 5, where the officers are seen parked on the side of highways, watching traffic with binoculars or chasing speeding vehicles on motorcycles. Another major inspiration comes from their vehicles. The CHP is well known for using motorcycles for highway patrol, which is exactly what the Highway Patrol primarily uses in the game. Even their uniform design is almost identical. The tan shirt, dark pants with a stripe, and the iconic helmet are all directly based on the real-life officers, and if you look closely at their badge in-game, you'll notice it looks clearly the same as the CHP badge, just without the word Eureka, which is part of the real CHP motto. The police force is primarily seen in the mission I Fought the Law. In this mission, the San Andreas Highway Patrol plays a central role, but not in the way you might expect. The mission begins with Franklin, Michael and Trevor being hired by Devin Weston to steal two high-end supercars from a pair of rich trust fund kids.
Hey, how about we see which one of you two is for real? So get in your cars and let's see if they move as fast as your mouth.
Ooh, the fool wants to race us. We were just getting out of here anyway. All right.
Instead of simply taking the cars, the plan is to make it look like a legitimate police stop. Franklin starts by challenging the drivers to a race along the Sonora Freeway, pushing them to extreme speeds and drawing attention, exactly the kind of behavior the Highway Patrol is meant to stop. As the race continues north through Blaine County, the perspective switches to Michael and Trevor, where they are now dressed as Highway Patrol officers, riding police motorcycles and waiting ahead on the highway. This is where things get interesting. Using their disguise, they perform a fake traffic stop on the Cassidy Creek Bridge, pulling over the speeding drivers, just like the real Highway Patrol would. But instead of issuing tickets, they force the drivers out of their cars and steal their vehicles.
Well, you and your boys look like you were drag racing from where we were sitting there, so why don't you get yourself out of the car? Come on. Officer.
Is this entirely necessary?
Yes, it is. Get on. Come on. Hands on the car. Let's go. Come on.
Get out of the car!
Hey! What are you doing? All right, we gotta make sure.
This moment perfectly shows how the authority of the Highway Patrol can be abused. The suspects comply not because of fear of crime, but because they believe they are dealing with real law enforcement. After taking the cars, the crew drives them to Hayes Autos, completing the job. This mission shows that the Highway Patrol isn't just a background detail, but actually plays a big role in the game and in the story. Is the Highway Patrol a corrupt law enforcement agency? The answer is no, not directly, or at least not in the same way shown as some other agencies in the game. They don't take bribes, work with criminals, or have storylines showing internal corruption. Instead, they act mostly as a standard law enforcement agency, focused on highway safety and enforcing traffic laws. Even though they aren't openly corrupt, the game still raises some interesting questions. In the mission I Fought the Law, Michael and Trevor are able to dress up as the highway police, but the question is how? Well, despite the highway police not being shown publicly as corrupt, they still aren't completely clean. We know that Devin Weston has authority over big parts of the LSPD and the FIB. With that in mind, the Highway Patrol couldn't be too different, as most of the system is already confirmed to be corrupt. But that doesn't necessarily mean the Highway Patrol itself is corrupt. Instead, it suggests something deeper. The system around them is flawed. Powerful figures like Devin Weston are able to influence law enforcement from the outside, using money and connections to get what they want. So rather than the Highway Patrol being corrupt on its own, it may simply be part of a larger system that can be manipulated. And that's exactly what we see in I Fought the Law. Michael and Trevor don't hack the system. They use the image of authority, which in a way doesn't make the Highway Patrol corrupt, but instead makes them part of a broken system. The Highway Patrol acts very similar to other police units in the game, but with a few key differences that make them stand out. On the surface, they behave like normal officers. If the player gets too close, honks excessively, or provokes them, they will quickly become aggressive. And just like any other police force, they respond immediately to crime. If you gain a wanted level near them, they will chase you down on their motorcycles, attempt to stop your vehicle, and become aggressive depending on your action. However, their use of motorcycles changes how they operate. Unlike the regular LSPD, they will chase you aggressively across long distances. But if they are standing on the side of the road, they may only pursue you on foot, or even steal a nearby civilian vehicle to continue the chase. Once things escalate, they don't hold back, as they will open fire using pistols, turning a simple traffic situation into a full-on police shootout. They can also occasionally respond to emergency calls, reinforcing their role as a statewide highway force rather than just traffic police. When it comes to equipment, the Highway Patrol keeps things simple but very effective. Their main vehicle is the police motorcycle. This is what truly defines them. Unlike the regular city police, the Highway Patrol relies heavily on speed and mobility. Interestingly, these bikes still carry LSPD markings, which could suggest that the unit was originally part of the city police, or simply a reused asset by the developers. But motorcycles aren't their only vehicles. In some situations, they also use sheriff cruisers, which appear in certain events, and a police transporter used for moving suspects to transport Patrick McCreary before we rescue him in GTA Online. This shows that while their primary focus is highway patrol, they still have access to more traditional police vehicles when needed. Just like their cars, their weapons are standard but deadly. They are typically equipped with a pistol as their primary weapon, and in more intense situations uses shotguns or SMGs. This allows them to escalate force quickly if a situation gets out of control. There are also two variations of uniforms. One includes a blue tie, giving it a more formal appearance, while the other removes the tie for a more practical on-duty look. Small details like work boots or shoes also vary, adding a bit of realism to each officer. Their uniform isn't just for looks, it's functional. Each officer carries an equipment belt that includes a firearm, handcuffs, and a radio with a shoulder mic. And because they primarily operate on motorcycles, they also wear a blue and bronze helmet and sunglasses for protection at high speeds. Interestingly, the patches on their uniforms read Los Santos Highway Patrol instead of San Andreas. This is likely a small developer oversight, but it also adds to the theory that the unit may have originally been planned as part of the city police. You actually get to wear their uniforms yourself during the mission I Fought the Law. After the mission, the outfit becomes available in your wardrobe, but surprisingly, wearing it doesn't fool the police at all. So while the San Andreas Highway Patrol might seem like just another background police unit, they're actually one of the most detailed and realistic forces in the game. From the real-life inspiration to their role in missions and gameplay, they add a layer of immersion that most players completely overlook. So the next time you're on the way to Sandy Shores or Paleto Bay, think twice before speeding, because you don't want to deal with the San Andreas Highway Patrol. The United States military is one of the most powerful organizations in GTA 5, yet it's also one of the least understood. While the LSPD, FIB, IAA and Merryweather dominate GTA 5's story, the military remains hidden in the background, only stepping in when the situation becomes too dangerous for anyone else to handle.
Sweet mother shit.
But behind the gates of Fort Zancudo lies a much deeper story, from stolen military hardware and catastrophic security failures to secret military units and corruption. So who are the military really? What is Jason's connection in GTA 6 to the military? And what are they hiding in the tunnels under Fort Zancudo? Today we're uncovering the untold lore of the GTA 5 military. Subscribe and enjoy. The US Army is Los Santos' primary protection in war. Unlike other private military companies, the military is strictly controlled by the government and are less corrupt than you think, or at least if we compare them to most other agencies. They act as a last standing hope for San Andreas, one of the few agencies that does what they're supposed to do, protect and serve, which is why their presence is mostly not seen throughout the story. Because unlike Merryweather Security, which is controlled by powerful billionaires like Devin Weston and Don Percival, or the LSPD, which are easily manipulated and weak to bribes, the military is more looked upon, making them less exposed to corruption. They are the most capable and trustworthy agency in the entire game. Every action carried out by the military is far more important than the police or any other private security company. A failed operation, missing weapons, or civilian casualties could trigger national investigations and political consequences. Unlike the LSPD or NUS, the military isn't responsible for everyday crime. Their role is to defend San Andreas against threats beyond the capabilities of local law enforcement. Protecting strategic military assets, they remain inside Fort Zancudo, only deploying when military property is threatened or when a situation escalates beyond civilian authorities. This makes the military one of the most disciplined and accountable organizations in the game. While no institution is completely immune to corruption, the military operates under far greater oversight than the LSPD or private contractors like Merryweather. The military is heavily inspired by the real United States Armed Forces. Like in real life, the GTA military is divided into several branches, including Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy and Coast Guard, each carrying out different responsibilities across the country. However, unlike the real military, Fort Zancudo combines every division into one branch, making the army seem small. Despite the military not appearing that much in the story, there are many known characters working within the army. One of them is Charlie Reed. Charlie is an aircraft mechanic seen in the Smuggler's Run update, who operates the aircraft modification shop in the hangars when the GTA Online protagonist purchases the upgrade to the hangar. Charlie is introduced by Ron Jakovsky as being an ex-United States Air Force mechanic who was made the fall guy for an incident involving a plane falling out of the sky.
Right, Charlie? No, hey, he's a brilliant engineer. He's an avionic mastermind. Just strangely underemployed. You get along great.
Rather than taking responsibility for a failed operation, the Air Force allegedly made him the fall guy, forcing him out of service. He later puts his expertise to use, helping criminals operate inside Fort Zancudo itself. But more of that later. Another notable former member is Maxim Rashkovsky, the military's former head of research. Before his imprisonment, Rashkovsky oversaw advanced military research connected to humane labs, making him one of the most intelligent scientists in San Andreas. His later escape during the prison break heist meant the military lost one of its greatest scientific minds.
I thought they were sending professionals. I collaborate and nearly get a ship for their pleasure. Just give me... Nice. There are some screws I hope we run into. Let's go!
He and Dima Popov owned a pharmaceutical company that controlled the humane labs and research facility. Rashkovsky has 3 doctorates and is also a vain sociopath.
You know the professor? Used to be head of research for the army. 3 doctorates. Overconfident polymath, vain sociopath, tedious egomaniac, control freak, geneticist, weapons development, engineer, car nut, but definitely not a people person.
Perhaps the most influential former member is Don Percival. Before founding Merryweather Security, Percival reportedly served as a Navy SEAL. His military experience helped him build Merryweather into one of the biggest private security companies, creating a direct connection between the US military and its biggest private competitor. Trevor also has a military background. Although he never officially became a pilot, he trained as an Air Force pilot before being discharged due to psychological instability. His military training explains his exceptional flying skills and knowledge of military aircraft. Other notable members are Sergeant Nolan, Privates Clark and Brinkat, along with Starkey, Lloyd and Solarin, which can all be seen guarding Sankudo. The military first appeared in the story in 2013 when an unknown man infiltrated their base of operation. The middle-aged man made his way into the helicopter pad and stole a cargo bob helicopter. They deployed all their troops, including a buzzard attack chopper, but unfortunately the thief escaped. While the theft of the cargo bob may have seemed random, this was only the beginning. Days later, a military convoy gets interrupted by another man, apparently around the same age, who intercepts one of the military's transport and steals the barracks containing 2 crates of military hardware. This was just not coincidence, it was a pattern. The military was slowly falling apart right in front of their eyes, and the worst was yet to come. Weeks later, the military gets a call from the police in Paleto Bay, where 3 heavily armed men have broken into the Blaine County Savings Bank, and they call for reinforcement.
I don't care if they surrender. I'm killing me some bad guys.
Now let the hostages go, and we'll talk like gentlemen.
The 3 heavily armed men were using the equipment reportedly stolen from the military. The military shows up, bringing rhino tanks and many soldiers. An intense battle happens, but the thieves were too well armed. The thieves fight their way through the Paleto construction site, where they jump on a dozer and later escape by the railway. This defeat showed just how weak and vulnerable the US military had become. Their escape showed that they were incapable of protecting San Andreas and its citizens. Later on, one of the bank robbers went on a streak, killing dozens of military units near their base of Fort Sankudo.
Strip the screw there.
I can't put the cap on.
No, it's a nut, man. You just screw it back on. Hey, what are you doing here, citizen? I said, what are you doing here, citizen?
Nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're clearly a tourist. Our friends from up north, eh? A boot?
Don't even say it like that.
There's a moose loose, a boot the who's.
Fuck you, Hoosier. Hey,
what's that? Oh, Jesus.
It's a faint accent.
Get out
You
of
can
here.
hardly
Come on.
tell.
They attacked, destroyed the military's equipment, and to their surprise, there was no objective. Nothing was stolen. It was just a madman going on a rampage. Fort Sankudo is the military's main base of operation. It's the only known military installation in the game. Every major operation happens from here. Located on the outskirts of the Lagu Sankudo swamps and at the base of Mount Joshua, Fort Sankudo is the most heavily armed and secured place in the entire game. It mainly serves as a base of operations, airbase and munitions depot for the United States Air Force, and the United States Marine Corps are also stationed at the base. Inside the base there's a control tower, where military is watching over and controlling the entire base, making sure they doesn't see anything suspicious. The east side of the base is mostly barracks, where military personnel can be seen training and making sure they're in the fit for battle. There is also a lot of hangars with military planes inside. There is also a fire station, vehicle depots, and they even have their own training facilities, allowing Fort Zancudo to function as a completely self-contained military installation. It's considered one of the most heavily guarded places in the entire game, mostly for its anti-scale fencing going around the base, and the only 2 entry points are guarded checkpoints where they inspect incoming personnel. The grounds are often patrolled by Rhino tanks, barracks trucks or crusaders. Although soldiers rarely leave Fort Zancudo, military convoys can occasionally be seen traveling around Route 1 and Route 68, likely transporting supplies between the base and the other government facilities. The local airspace is also controlled by P-1996 laser fighter jets, which have clearance to shoot down any aircraft that is not authorized to pass through. Fort Zancudo is inspired by real-life Vandenberg Space Force Base in Lompoc, California. Both bases sit along California's central coastline and feature long runways, restricted military airspace, and isolated locations away from major cities. Fort Zancudo also appears to borrow elements from Naval Base Ventura County, particularly the Point Mugu area. The marshes and wetlands surrounding Lago Zancudo closely resemble the Mugu Lagoon wetlands, giving the base its distinctive environment that differs from most military bases in-game. At the time of GTA 5, Fort Zancudo remains one of the most secure military installations in the entire game. However, only a few years later, their reputation would begin to change. By 2017, the military began leasing out their hangars to unauthorized personnel, selling part of their military base to wealthy billionaires. The GTA Online protagonist. This marked a change in the military. They weren't this trusted army anymore, who swore to protect its citizens. Instead, they were corrupted, selling their hangars to wealthy businessmen and criminals, who now use the military's own base to smuggle narcotics, chemicals, alcohol, and stolen jewelry. The corruption was now inside the military itself, smuggling illegal cargo right under their noses. And the mastermind behind it all was Ron Yakovsky. Ron secures a partnership with the protagonist in the contraband smuggling business, in which he gets a 3% cut of the goods smuggled.
You trying to kill me? Oh God, no! Oh, you're my new partner. You butt into the place. You're late. What kept you? Yeah, well, it's too late. That bastard Trent. My best friend? Oh, he's supposed to protect me forever? Then he goes all Vinewood on me. He's too important for Ron now. He's a guru. He's a lifestyle coach. I don't know what he is. I bet he's got abs.
Although the military appears as a single organization, it is actually divided into several specialized branches, each responsible for different operations across San Andreas. The army is the backbone of Fort Zancudo's ground forces. These are the soldiers players encounter when trespassing inside the base or during story missions such as the Paleto Score. Their responsibilities include defending the base, protecting military convoys, and operating heavy vehicles including Rhino tanks. Whenever Fort Zancudo is placed on high alert, these are the first troops deployed to eliminate the threat. Protecting the skies above San Andreas is the Fort Zancudo Air Force. The Air Force controls the airspace using P-996 laser fighter jets, cargo bobs, Titans, and buzzard attack helicopters. Any unauthorized aircraft entering the restricted zone is immediately intercepted with fighter pilots, given permission to destroy hostile targets before they can reach the base. This explains why stealing military aircraft from Fort Zancudo is one of the most difficult tasks. Perhaps the most mysterious division of the military is the Special Airborne Unit. Unlike the Army or Air Force, the unit never physically appears during gameplay. Instead, Rockstar hides references to it throughout both GTA 5 and GTA Online. The first clue can be found inside Trevor Phillips' trailer, where an SAU flag hangs above his sofa. He also owns a leather jacket displaying the same insignia, suggesting he either served with the unit or had some connection to it before. Years later, another clue appeared in GTA Online. Pavel, the Russian submariner who assists the player during the Cayo Perico heist, has a Special Airborne Unit tattoo on his upper arm. Whether Pavel actually served with the unit or simply adopted its insignia has never been explained. The unit's logo is a wolf surrounded by 3 yellow lightning bolts and with a Latin motto that says "Trust no one." By 2024, Fort Zancudo once again suffered a major attack, but this time it was far more serious. Instead of stealing equipment from the runway, the attackers infiltrated the heart of the military base itself. Former FIB officer Jody Marshall revealed that the military had secretly been developing an experimental directed energy weapon. The weapon was scheduled to be transported to Area 69 in Boone County for testing. But before it could leave the base, the GTA Online protagonist infiltrated Fort Zancudo, disguised as military personnel, using a stolen military vehicle, an elevator pass key, and an override key provided by Yoda's inside contact. The protagonist bypassed the security and gained access to an underground military complex hidden beneath one of the base's hangars. This was the first time we got it confirmed that Fort Zancudo extends far below the surface. Beneath the runaways lies a vast underground storage facility containing classified military technology, armored vehicles and experimental weapons hidden away from the public. Deep inside the facility, the protagonist located the experimental Future Shock Scarab, equipped with a directed energy weapon. After overriding the vehicle's security system, they escaped through a hidden tunnel beneath Fort Zancudo before delivering the prototype to a private buyer. If the military was secretly developing weapons beneath Fort Zancudo all along, how many other classified projects are still hidden inside the base? What are they hiding under Fort Zancudo? Before the ages of sabotage, most players believed the base was simply an airfield with a few hangars and barracks. But in 2024 it was revealed that an entire underground military complex had existed beneath the base all along. It suggests Fort Zancudo serves as the military's primary research and development center, where experimental weapons and classified technology are developed long before they ever reach the battlefield. A complex of that size was likely never built for just a single directed energy weapon. Instead, it's possible the military has been developing and storing advanced prototypes beneath Fort Zancudo for years, away from the public eye. The directed energy weapon may simply be one of the first projects players were allowed to see. If that's true, then there could be countless other classified vehicles, weapons and military experiments still hidden beneath the base, waiting to be revealed in the future of GTA Online or even GTA 6. What is Jason's connection to the military in GTA 6? Rockstar has officially confirmed that Jason Duval served in the army before the events of GTA 6, hoping military life would help him leave behind his troubled teenage years. Instead, after leaving the service, he found himself working for drug smugglers in the Leonida Keys, but his military background raises some interesting questions. Throughout the HD universe, military experience has shaped many important characters. Trevor trained as an Air Force pilot. Don Percival used his military career to build Merryweather Security. Charlie Reed became one of the military's best aircraft mechanics before being discharged. One possible explanation is that Jason's time in the army wasn't included simply to explain why he can use military weapons or vehicles. Instead, it may be tied to further corruption of the military. Whether Jason served at a Leonida military base, took part in classified operations, or simply left the army before the events for a completely unknown reason. Nothing is revealed about his military career beyond the fact that it happened. But after everything we learned about Fort Zancudo, the special airborne unit, it's hard to believe Jason's military past is just a throwaway detail. How did one of the most secured organizations slowly become corrupted within? It began with repeated security breaches. Fort Zancudo, supposedly the most secure military installation in San Andreas, was infiltrated time and time again. Military aircraft were stolen, convoys carrying classified equipment were hijacked, and stolen hardware was later used during the Paleto Bank robbery. Despite deploying tanks, helicopters, and hundreds of soldiers, the military failed to stop just 3 criminals. But the greatest threat didn't just come from outside the gates. By 2017, the military had begun leasing hangars inside Fort Zancudo to wealthy civilians. Among them was the protagonist who used the military's property to smuggle their stolen valuables. So to summarize, Fort Zancudo was no longer just a military base. It was now part of a criminal empire who let anyone in and sold their property to anyone without really checking their background. From terrifying murders to media personalities, the San Andreas State Prison Authority is responsible for holding some of the most dangerous criminals. Their primary known responsibility is the Bolingbrook Penitentiary, the enormous prison located in the Grand Sonora Desert in Blaine County. Unlike the LSPD or Sheriff's Department, the prison guards doesn't function as a normal police agency. They don't normally respond to crimes committed elsewhere in the state. Their jurisdiction is only around the prison. This means that their role include guarding inmates, operating the prison, and transporting criminals in and out of the facility. Bolingbrook is clearly not an ordinary jail. The facility is surrounded by fences and guard towers, with armed officers positioned through the compound. They are primarily based on the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. This makes sense since San Andreas is based on California. Much like the in-game police force, the Department of Corrections operates the state's prison system, with correctional officers responsible for guarding inmates, securing facilities, and transporting prisoners. However, in GTA 5, they are a bit over-exaggerated, as the guards carry assault rifles, watchtower guards use sniper rifles, and during the prison break, some guards can even be seen using RPGs against aircraft. Bolingbrook Penitentiary doesn't really have any clear, real inspiration. Instead, it's inspired by multiple locations. Being the only prison in the entire game, it's home to some of the most dangerous criminals we know, starting off with Merle Abraham, the Infinity Killer. In 1999, he was captured by the police and incarcerated in Bolingbrook Penitentiary for killing 8 male joggers. At some point during his time in prison, his home in Sandy Shores was burnt down. He died in the Bolingbrook Penitentiary in December of 2004 at the age of 57, while awaiting the trial for the Infinity murders. DeMarcus Bradley attended Davis High School with Franklin Clinton and Lamar Davis. At some point in his life, he joined the families and eventually became an OG. However, in 2011, he was arrested for an unknown crime and was incarcerated at Bolingbrook Penitentiary during the events of the game. Stretch served several months in prison before GTA 5, but the exact time or date of his arrest is never confirmed. Another known inmate is Jack Howitzer, a former Winewood action star who appeared in more than 40 films.
Prison changes a man, but I knew that Vinewood and my fans would be here waiting for me. Hey Carl, take care of your dick.
The headquarters of the San Andreas State Prison Authority is the Bolingbrook Penitentiary. Located along Route 68 in the Grand Senora Desert, the prison has an almost octagonal shape and is surrounded by double fences and armed watchtowers, with sniper-equipped guards watching the compound 24/7. Security is extremely heavy. Vehicles must pass through multiple checkpoints and gates before reaching the main prison, while cameras and a large control tower monitor the inmates inside. The prison itself is divided into 12 blocks. One of the most secure areas is A2, where newly arrived inmates appear to be processed before entering the prison. The southern courtyard is the main recreation area, containing outdoor gyms, basketball courts and benches, all surrounded by guards and watchtowers. During the story of GTA 5, the San Andreas State Prison Authority doesn't really appear in the story, other than a prison bus driving on a bridge in the mission Father-Son. By 2013, the prison guards would encounter one of its first security breaches, when Lester Crest sends a group of criminals to create chaos across Los Santos. After destroying several LSPD vehicles around the city, the criminals travel to the Bolingbrook Penitentiary, where they destroy a prison bus positioned near the main entrance. For the prison authority, this appears to be an almost random attack on one of their vehicles. However, it was only part of Lester's much larger plan to overwhelm law enforcement and reduce the police presence around Los Santos. They later became responsible for transporting a prisoner named Gustavo to the prison. He had originally been held in Paleto County and was being transferred alongside 2 other prisoners. The transport was operated by 2 guards, but the bus never reached the prison. Lester hired criminals to intercept the transport, killing the officers and rescuing Gustavo. During the preparations for the prison break heist, a prison bus becomes the target of an even more organized operation. But this time the prison officers wouldn't be able to prepare for what was about to come. The stolen bus is eventually used in one of the biggest security breaches in history. 2 members of the crew disguise themselves as a prison officer and a prisoner and drive the stolen bus directly into the facility. Their disguise initially works, allowing them to pass through the prison entrance before the guards become suspicious, and the operation turns into an open firefight. But the attackers eventually reach Reshkovsky, arm him and fight their way through prison. Despite news response, Reshkovsky is successfully taken outside the facility and eventually escapes by plane. From the prison authorities' perspective, this was a complete disaster. This marked the beginning of their fall, as fear rose among prison guards and inmates. By 2019, the prison had survived years without a security breach, but that wouldn't last that much longer, as Lester found another way to exploit the prison authority. This time, the criminals entered the facility in prison guards' uniforms and made their way to one of the watchtowers. In silence, they assassinated the guard, stole the key card and escaped the prison. The staff had no idea what hit them, as they believed it was an inmate responsible for the murder. The key card would later be used to enter the Diamond Casino. By 2021, the Bolingbrook would suffer another major attack. This time the criminals didn't even bother using disguise. They used a ramp to jump directly over the prison walls before opening fire on several inmates inside the facility. Guards immediately placed the prison into lockdown and attempted to stop the attackers, but the targets were killed. During the chaos, the guards tried to evacuate another prisoner named Lil D in a prison bus, but the attackers chased the transport, killed the driver and freed Lil D. Once again, the guards had failed to keep control of the very facility they were guarding. Gruppe Sechs is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, security company in GTA 5. But how powerful are they really? What's the group's connection to Bobcat Security? And on what side stands Gruppe Sechs between the war of the IAA and the FIB? Today we're going to uncover the untold lore of Gruppe Sechs. Gruppe Sechs work alongside other government agencies like the IAA and the FIB, but they do more than just transport money. The company also provides on-site security, home alarm systems and security technology. Their branding can be found on surveillance cameras, alarm system, and even airport equipment like X-ray machines and metal detectors. Gruppe Sechs guards can also be found protecting locations like Weasel News and Richard Majestic Productions, showing just how widespread the company really is throughout Los Santos. Gruppe Sechs is heavily inspired by the real-world security company G4S, formerly known as Group 4 Securica. Even the company's armored vehicles reference this connection, as the Stockade was originally called Securicar, but like many companies in GTA, the name is also a Rockstar joke, as when you read the name out loud, it sounds very suspicious. Putting you insecure can be read as literally putting you insecure, which is actually quite funny. The company operates several headquarters throughout the GTA universe, one in Liberty City, Alderney, and another in the terminal of Los Santos. Their presence in Liberty City goes much further than just having an office there. Gruppe Sechs can be seen transporting valuables for the Bank of Liberty City, showing that the company was already handling major banking contracts long before the events of GTA 5. But probably the most important contract Gruppe Sechs ever received was with the Union Depository. The Union Depository is basically the holy grail of banks in Los Santos. It holds the country's gold reserves and is described as one of the most secure financial institutions in the country. And Gruppe Sechs plays a major role in keeping it running. They're being trusted with hundreds of millions of dollars. The building is located at 17 Power Street and is the 5th tallest building in the city. The ground area has 2 entrances, on the west and east. Inside there's a loading bay where all the shipments are taken and later put in the vault. And the gold is protected by iron bars and a huge vault door, with the elevator seemingly being the only way of accessing the underground floor. Casey is one of the few named employees. He works as a security car driver and is first seen during serving the score, unknowingly helping the crew learn the route into the Union Depository. During the big score, he is taken hostage and used to get Michael and Trevor through the depository security.
Hey, please, whatever you
Yeah,
need.
no sh**. We need you.
No.
What's your name?
Casey.
Casey! Get in the f***ing truck.
Let's go. Go. Get in.
After the gold is stolen, Trevor nearly kills him, but Michael lets him go and gives him a gold bar worth around $300,000 in exchange for his silence. Michael also warns him that if he talks, they will frame him as being involved in the robbery.
Biggest score of our lives, we ain't taking any chances. Sorry, Pally.
Gee.
Well,
It ain't a chance.
please,
He's in on it. Huh? Get up. Hey, get up. You tell him something that ain't on the news already. This whole thing was your idea.
Yeah, I understand. Not a word.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was jumped. I never saw a thing. Go!
Casey agrees, runs away, and is never seen again. In 2013, Gruppe Sechs was contracted to transport a shipment of high-value government bonds on behalf of the IAA. What should have been a routine armored transport quickly turned into one of the most violent attacks ever on a Gruppe Sechs vehicle. While traveling through Cypress Flats, the car encountered a garbage truck, blocking the road ahead. The transport was blown up and attacked. The crew stole the bonds and escaped after a massive shootout with the police. Unknown to Gruppe Sechs, the robbery had actually been ordered by corrupt FIB agents who wanted to steal the IAA's funds, putting the company right in the middle of a conflict between the two agencies. The company's involvement was later publicly confirmed during a Weasel News report. However, the agency refused to reveal how much the bonds were worth.
In a rare public statement, IAA spokesperson Lucinda Jacob confirmed a connection between her agency and the robbery of a Gruppe Sechs armored car in Cypress Flats. She told us she could confirm the car was carrying high-value government bonds, but was unable to tell how much.
There's actually some irony to Michael attacking the company. Despite helping destroy one of their armored transports, Michael's own mansion uses Gruppe Sechs as home security. So while Michael is robbing their vehicles, he's apparently paying the exact same company to help protect his house. Weeks or even months later, the security company was responsible for transporting valuables into the Union Depository. During what appeared to be a routine practice run, 2 Gruppe Sechs cars were secretly followed across Los Santos by unknown men. Unaware they were being watched from a helicopter, The guards revealed the route into the Union depository. The crew of criminals eventually identified a tunnel along the route as the perfect place to intercept the Gruppe Sechs convoy. This information would later become a crucial part of their plan to pull off the biggest robbery in the history of Los Santos. The criminals eventually put their plan into action. 2 Gruppe Sechs cars were intercepted in the same tunnel they had previously scouted, and the guards were taken hostage. They then disguised themselves as Gruppe Sechs employees and took control of the armored truck. 1 guard, Casey, was kept with them so they could pass the Union's depository security checks.
Hey, I was expecting you like half minute ago.
Here you go. Gets me every time.
Onion 86 in the building.
The disguise worked, and the criminals were allowed inside the vault, where they loaded around 200 million worth of gold into the Gruppe Sechs trucks.
Hey, I'm not feeling so well, and I thought
Hey,
maybe
come
I
on,
could just,
Casey,
you know...
suck it up.
You can't handle the hangover, Case. Do not overindulge.
After leaving the depository, Casey was given a gold bar for being quiet. The criminals then abandoned the Gruppe Sechs trucks, transferred the gold into getaway cars, and escaped Los Santos. News outlets all over the country wrote about it. People on the streets started talking, and the Gruppe Sechs company began questioning how one of the most safest facilities in the country could be robbed that easily. The incident was a complete scandal. In 2019, Gruppe Sechs would once again become the center of a major robbery. This time the criminals were planning to rob the Diamond Casino.
That's a heavy door. Ain't much getting through here. There.
The criminals stole one of the company's stockades that was being repaired at an auto shop. They then located the Gruppe Sechs truck assigned to the casino, copied its license plate and stole company uniforms. With the stolen truck matching plates and Gruppe Sechs disguise, the crew was able to impersonate a legitimate security team. Because they appeared to be Gruppe Sechs employees, they were allowed deep into the casino's restricted areas and were eventually escorted directly to the vault. Just like the Union depository heist, Gruppe Sechs' identity and reputation had once again been used against the very facility they were supposed to protect. Despite everything that happened over the years, Gruppe Sechs continued operating across San Andreas. By 2025, the company was actively recruiting freelance security couriers to transport high-value goods across the state. Drivers would report to the Gruppe Sechs depot in Pillbox Hill, where they were given a reinforced stockade containing valuable cargo. These shipments could contain anything from jewelry to counterfeit goods. After completing 5 successful deliveries for Gruppe Sechs, trusted drivers were rewarded with the company's Defender uniform. Despite suffering from some of the biggest security breaches in Los Santos history, Gruppe Sechs was still transporting valuable cargo and still attracting criminals who wanted to steal it. What's the group's connection to Bobcat Security? Gruppe Sechs' connection to Bobcat Security is actually a bit of a mystery. During the North Yankton robbery, the bank appears to be protected by Bobcat Security, with Bobcat branding and an armored truck outside. However, security cameras inside the same bank carries Gruppe Sechs branding. By the time of G-Day 5, Bobcat signs can still be found around Los Santos, but the company itself has almost no visible presence, while Gruppe Sechs seems to dominate the security industry. This has led to a theory that Gruppe Sechs may have bought out Bobcat or taken over some of its operations, suggesting that Bobcat either worked very closely to Gruppe Sechs or perhaps under the company itself. What side does Gruppe Sechs stand on between the war of the IAA and the FIB? If Gruppe Sechs had to be placed on one side, it most likely would be the IAA. During Blitz play, Gruppe Sechs was directly trusted by the IAA to transport their valuable government assets throughout Los Santos. Meanwhile, it was corrupt FIB agents who secretly organized the attack on the transport. So, from the Gruppe Sechs perspective, the IAA was their client, while the FIB were responsible for attacking their operation. That doesn't necessarily make Gruppe Sechs any ally of the IAA, but since they doesn't really appear to do any work for the FIB, it would be much more likely that they worked for the IAA, since also other security companies like Merryweather chose to work with IAA instead of the FIB. Why does Merryweather work for Devin Weston? Why did Trevor Phillips hate Merryweather so much? And what's the real reason the government lost trust in the company? We are going to answer all of this in this video, because Merryweather isn't just another security company. It is one of the most powerful private armies in the GTA universe, backed by billions of dollars, global operations and deep connections to the government. Just like its real-world inspiration, Merryweather is presented as a modern private army, a corporation with soldiers, military equipment and global influence. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get straight into the untold lore of Merryweather Security.
What was that?
Nothing.
Merryweather Security Consulting is a private military and security contracting company founded in 2003 by Donald Percival, better known as Don Percival, a 44-year-old former Navy SEAL who started the company using money from a coup in West Africa. It all began in Central and South America, where they hired mercenaries to help the government move money and drugs. The website satirically describes South America as one of the best locations to work because it's close to home, so you can fly back and visit the kids you lost in the divorce for being a violent drunk. Merryweather began operating and expanding across Asia, Africa, Europe and the Middle East. In Asia, it is revealed that Merryweather hires Asian soldiers and killers to carry out operations for them, and in return they pay them only pennies a day, making a massive profit for the company. What made the company especially controversial was that they had been cleared to operate on American land, not just overseas. That meant that they weren't just fighting shadow wars abroad anymore. They were now active inside the USA and in Los Santos itself. They offer services such as creative interrogation tactics, locating weapons of mass destruction, accidentally violating religious cultures, and then shooting people when they get angry, and also training third world yokels to fight as the first world yokels, which is pretty funny considering how they outsource the Asian workforce. This description appears on their website, likely being a parody of the real events involving Blackwater's private military, the real-life inspiration behind Merryweather. During this time, Merryweather mainly recruited former military personnel, meaning many of its operatives were highly trained, heavily armed and experienced in combat, but they were also known for being extremely aggressive and lacking clear moral or ethical boundaries. They frequently committed abuses and human rights violations, which began to give them a negative reputation among many American citizens. One of those critics was Trevor Phillips, who would later become one of the main reasons for their demise. During its early years between 2003 and 2008, Merryweather primarily operated overseas in conflict zones across the Middle East. They reportedly assisted the US military operations in countries such as Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, performing high-risk tasks that required highly trained mercenaries. It's also implied that they secretly cooperated with IAA in covert operations across the state, as Merryweather provides security for the humane labs and research during the mission monkey business, implying that they've been working at least once for the IAA. It is also possible to see mercenaries in the lab area during chemical extraction. The company is based on Academy, formerly known as Blackwater, a private military company famous mainly for alleged human rights violations during the Iraq War. Like Academy, Merryweather also changed its name after an incident that damaged its public image. This mirrors real-world events, where Blackwater rebranded multiple times after international controversy. Rockstar Game uses Merryweather as a satire of private military contractors operating with little accountability. Their name, logo, operations and overall structure are very similar. Percival is based on Eric Prince, the founder and former CEO of Blackwater. Prince was himself a former Navy SEAL who served with the SEAL Team 8 from approximately 1993 to 95. At an unknown time, Percival took Merryweather public on the stock market. Before 2013, he obtained permission and assistance from the US government to operate on American soil. This was a huge step for the company, They were now allowed to do both government contracts and for private interests. The company also received over $10 million in US government contracts, making it one of the largest private military contractors in the GTA universe. This wasn't just a private security company anymore. It was a global private army backed by taxpayers' money and political connections. That same year, Merryweather expanded into Los Santos thanks to the billionaire and investor Devin Weston. Devin Weston is one of the richest and one of the best billionaire investment gurus in Los Santos. Thanks to Devin Weston, Merryweather expanded throughout Los Santos and across the United States, providing enhanced security for corporations and even doing classified work for the government. This meant Merryweather was operating in two worlds at once. Firstly, serving government contracts on one side, while also protecting wealthy private clients and corporate interests on the other. This is important because Devin Weston owns 11% of the company, which will matter later in the story. After expanding into the United States, the company organized its operations into three main divisions. The Patrol Division, responsible for property protection and security services. These units guard construction sites, ports and private facilities, usually patrolling on foot or in security vehicles. The Private Military Division is a division with a quite unique appearance, looking like Black Ops soldiers. They are also the most infamous branch of Merryweather. This division conducts high-risk operations, such as countering terror and assassinations. Many of these missions operate in legal gray areas. And the Humane Lab Security Division, a specialized unit responsible for protecting the humane labs and research near the Grand Sonora Desert. Their involvement backed the fact that Merryweather is working with IAA and is participating in classified government research programs. Sometime before the events of GTA 5, they established a port on Elysian Island, turning it into their main operational base in Los Santos. The port facility became the center of their logistic operations, housing weapons shipments, vehicles, and equipment used in their contracts with the US government. Why does Merryweather work for Devin Weston? Merryweather Security works for Devin Weston because he is a major stakeholder, owning 11% of the private military company. As a wealthy investor, he holds significant influence over the company, allowing him to leverage their military and resources for personal protection and to target the protagonists throughout the game. He uses his position to order Merryweather to protect his assets or attack anyone who wrongs him. This was part of Weston and Percival's deal. When Merryweather first moved the operation to Los Santos, Devin Weston helped fund the operation and grow it in the city, and in return Don Percival sold parts of Merryweather with the agreement that they would act as Weston's private security, keeping him safe from intruders and enemies who tried to hurt him. With the move to Los Santos, Merryweather was on its rise, but complications would lead to the company's stock going down. It all began when Merryweather was testing an experimental superweapon at the port of Los Santos aboard a large cargo ship in the broad daylight. Where Merryweather had a facility, a man arrived with a truck claiming he had to deliver a shipping manifest.
Hey! You can't come through here. It's restricted access.
No entiendo. No understando. Manifesto. Manifesto say deliver here.
Hey, stop! Get back here!
You must have got confused. God don't speak English. Must have misread the manifesto.
He said go here.
The soldiers grew suspicious and rough with the man's friend who fled. At the time, Merryweather assumed it was just someone mistakenly entering a restricted area, but a few nights later, a man infiltrated the cargo ship and began silently taking out guards one by one.
Hey dog, I'm in position. Let me know when you're ready. Alright F, I'm in position. Damn, that's a long way up. So make sure I don't run into any trouble when I get there. F***ing Trevor.
The alarm sounded, and Merryweather agents called for reinforcements. A sniper on the bridge was supporting the infiltrator. The soldiers used heavy firepower, vehicles and helicopters, but nothing was enough. During the Merryweather heist, the trio infiltrated the ship, planted bombs, sank the ship, and stole the experimental superweapon. In just minutes, Merryweather had been hit with their biggest hit ever, and no one knew what had happened. The weapon stole from the ship was a prototype electromagnetic device developed for the government. The score wasn't only an attack against Merryweather, it was an attack against the government, a personal threat, endangering the company's image and partnership with the government. Many soldiers died at night, and it cost Merryweather a lot of money. It was a serious attack during the first months in Los Santos. Trevor, who was the man responsible and the mastermind behind the entire operation, did not realize the war he had started. They had just escalated a full-scale conflict with Merryweather and the entire government. Lester Crest, who realized what Trevor had done, demanded him to return the weapon in order to prevent panic.
You should be in bed.
Yes, I should be. I would be if certain known associates weren't busy making themselves enemies of the state. You know, the FIB, Merryweather, IAA. You could with them all day long. But when you try and steal an experimental super weapon and sell it to the Chinese, you and everyone you ever knew is gonna be in the ass, you chumps.
Hold on, man. A super weapon? The Chinese? What?
What you think is in there?
I thought he talked to you.
And so did Trevor return the prototype. Days later, Merryweather found the super weapon abandoned, with still no clue who had hit them. Why does Trevor hate Merryweather so much? Trevor Phillips hates Merryweather Security, primarily because they represent well-funded corporate. As a meth dealer and entrepreneur, there is nothing more he despises than corrupt government and organized power. They act as a major antagonist force in the game and is a big obstacle to Trevor's criminal enterprises, forcing him to fight them and hate them directly. He hates Merryweather because to him they represent everything: corrupt power, government protection, and rich elites using violence to control others. Trevor sees Merryweather as a private army that can murder, steal, and abuse its power without facing consequences. In his eyes, they are not mercenaries, they are the armed servants of the wealthiest and the most corrupt people in the world. That personal hatred is one of the main reasons he keeps targeting them throughout the story. Weeks went by, and despite Merryweather's early setback, they grew their presence in Los Santos. One day, Merryweather was transporting a large shipment of weapons aboard a cargo plane. Suddenly, a crop duster plane appeared and began following them. The soldiers ordered the pilot to change course or to be shot down.
Me? I'm just a lonely guy out in this crowd. Who are you?
Unidentified aircraft. Divert your course or we will be forced to shoot you down.
Shoot me down? Now that's not very sociable.
Final warning. Divert or you will be grounded.
My fate's in your hands.
Instead, the crop duster got closer and closer, and eventually it flew directly into the cargo plane throughout the rear door. Chaos erupted. The attacker was none other than Trevor. He killed the soldiers and the pilot, taking control of the plane and its cargo. But 2 fighter jets arrived, and after a tense exchange, they shot the plane's engine. Trevor jumped out as the aircraft crashed into the Alamo Sea. Once again, Merryweather suffered another major loss, caused by an unknown middle-aged drug dealer. Why did Trevor attack Merryweather despite Lester warning him? The second attack on Merryweather during minor turbulence was clearly intentional, but why did he do it if Lester had already warned him not to do so? It's because Trevor doesn't care. He is unpredictable, violent, and does exactly what he feels like. Merryweather operations had previously interrupted Trevor's business and his territory in Blaine County, so it's only fair that they share some of the profit with him. Trevor hating Merryweather is one thing, but when it comes to using his enterprise airspace to transport weapons, then Trevor wouldn't let it slip. He saw the opportunity to once again make a lot of money, and he wouldn't let Merryweather or Lester Crest stop him. Despite all of these casualties and random attacks, Merryweather still didn't know who was responsible for it, so they continued with their operations, exporting weapons for the government as it was originally planned. But the plan would soon get interrupted. Merryweather operated a high-value courier service, transporting art, artifacts and other valuable cargo for collectors and institutions. So when one of their trains was moving priceless cargo throughout the state, it wasn't unusual for the company. This was part of their business. The same mysterious man boarded the moving train. Merryweather realized something was wrong when the train sped past their base. It crashed into another train on a bridge over the Raton Canyon River. The company deployed snipers, boats and helicopters, but once again the private military had lost. Trevor, with the help of Michael, stole a relic and escaped by boat. At this point, Merryweather had lost soldiers, weapons, reputation, money, but most importantly, their promise. The government began losing faith in Merryweather's ability to move classified weapons. Percival's vision was slowly falling apart, and all because of one man and one man only, Trevor Phillips. Where is Don Percival during the events of the game? Despite being the founder and main owner of Merryweather Security, Don Percival is physically never seen in the game and is only described on their website. Percival is most likely running Merryweather from far away from Los Santos. My guess would be Costa Rica or from South America, as the website itself puts it as one of the best places to work, not being too far away from Los Santos. But what's interesting is that Percival's absence might not be accidental. In fact, it's strategic. By staying out of Los Santos, he avoids direct association with Merryweather's repeated failures and scandals in the city. While his soldiers were losing battles on the ground, he remained untouchable, operating from behind the scenes, where he could control the company without taking the blame. This also fits perfectly with how private military companies operate in the GTA universe. The people at the top rarely get their hands dirty. Instead, they let others take the risks, while they profit from the outcome. And in Percival's case, it worked, because even after everything that happened, he still managed to come out ahead, buying back shares, cutting losses, and keeping Merryweather alive globally. Eventually, Merryweather received information that one of the attackers would attend a meeting at the court center. They launched a large operation. Agents from the FIB, IAA, and other agencies were involved. They were going to ambush and kill the ones responsible for all the damage. A gunshot triggered a massive firefight. Merryweather deployed soldiers and helicopters to eliminate the targets, but the same attackers destroyed another helicopter. Despite sending yet another, the targets escaped in a sports car, and Merryweather once again was defeated. Days later, Devin Weston ordered an attack on a house in Rockford Hills, the house of one of the attackers. Multiple squads were deployed. They infiltrated the mansion, capturing everyone living there, in wait for Weston's next order. But what they didn't realize was that they entered the wrong house, the house of Michael DeSanta. He single-handedly fought off the mercenaries.
That's gross! Ew! Baby, are you okay? Are you alright, sweetie?
We're inside. Find them. Fuck them up.
A Merryweather soldier almost succeeded in killing him, but the power went out and the soldier was knocked out by the man's own son.
Someone there? I'm gonna start shooting!
Yeah, you like that, don't you, huh? Take it all. Get off me! I thought I was on that guy.
Oh.
So you sit on his face? It's called teabagging?
In embarrassment, Merryweather returned their troops. Days went by, and on the news it was revealed that the Union Depository, the largest bank in Los Santos, was robbed. The criminals stole roughly $200 million worth of gold. Merryweather noticed this and tracked the armored trucks to the back of the Vanilla Unicorn. A massive gunfight broke out, but the criminals defeated the mercenaries again. They escaped with gold in 4 vehicles, and the heist became one of the largest robbery in the history of Los Santos. Soon after, Merryweather learned the gold was being melted at a city foundry. Merryweather and the government agents launched a major operation. They entered carefully, but what they didn't know was that it was an ambush. Gunfires erupted from multiple directions. Merryweather deployed all remaining forces, trucks, helicopters, and heavily armed soldiers. Yet the 4 criminals overwhelmed them. By the end of the battle, Merryweather had almost no soldiers left, and the battle ultimately resulted in their demise. Their final task was to protect major shareholder Devin Weston. Remaining soldiers guarded him at his mansion, but Trevor silently killed them and kidnapped Weston. Alongside Michael and Franklin, he nearly destroyed the company's operation in the city. The next day, Don Percival emailed Michael and sarcastically thanked him because the company's falling stock allowed Percival to buy Devin Weston's share cheaply. Merryweather could still profit elsewhere around the world. For a time, the company stopped operating in the United States. Their stock value and public image had taken a massive hit. Repeated failures, huge casualties, and lost government trust turned Merryweather from an elite military contractor into a company whose reputation was in ruins. After losing their government contracts and legal clearance to operate domestically, Merryweather was forced to withdraw many of its American operations. They eventually returned to Los Santos, but they were never as powerful as before. Between 2014 and 2017, Merryweather entered what many considered its dark age. After repeated failures against Trevor Phillips and his allies, the company lost much of its reputation. Several major clients, including government agencies, began distancing themselves from the company. During this period, Merryweather reportedly shut down several of its divisions and focused mainly on basic security contracts in order to survive financially. Their fortunes changed again when tech billionaire Avon Hertz hired the company as a private army. Hertz, founder of the artificial intelligence program Clifford, required a powerful private military force to carry out his plans. With Hertz funding, Merryweather was able to reactivate its military division and return to large-scale operations across San Andreas. Although Avon was eventually stopped during the Doomsday Heist, the money he paid helped keep Merryweather alive. By 2023, the US government had largely lost trust in Merryweather due to its repeated failures and controversial history. A rival mercenary organization known as the Los Santos Angels eventually replaced Merryweather in several government contracts. After the completion of Project Overthrow, the US government officially ended its contract with Merryweather, removing their legal clearance to operate on American land. From a global private army to a company broken by failure, greed, and one unpredictable man, Merryweather didn't fall overnight. It was destroyed piece by piece until even the government lost trust. Yet, even now, they're still out there waiting for a comeback. Because in GTA, power never truly dies. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and I'll catch you in the next one.